Good evening and welcome to the September 4th, 2019 meeting of the Milton Select Board. Before we begin, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. That's the best version that we've heard in a while. Before we begin with the items on the agenda, since our last meeting, this community lost two of its most cherished and members and contributors. Bill Riley passed away. Mr. Riley was a selectman at the time of the town of Milton from 1983 to 1988. He was a 12-year town meeting member. He was past president of the Milton Rotary Club. He was a fourth-degree member of the past Grand Knight of the Milton Council of the Knights of Columbus. Mr. Riley was a great contributor and a great member of this community. And then not long ago as well, this community lost Marge Jeffries, another important contributor to this community. Ms. Jeffries was a trustee of the Milton Public Library. She was a driving force behind the library's renovation, a longtime library advocate, and she was a Milton Town Meeting member for more than 30 years. So before we begin, I'd just like to ask us all to take a moment of silence to think about Bill Riley and his contributions and Marge Jeffries and her contributions. Thank you for that. So, item 3 is citizen speak. And judging by the crowd, my guess is we have more than one person for citizen speak. We have a policy for public participation at our meetings that has gone through and been approved by first reading and has not been formally approved in a second reading, but without objection from the board members, the procedure that's set forth in that policy that is pending is the procedure that I'd like to follow for this evening's citizen speak. There's no objection from the members. So that procedure provides for 15 minutes, up to 15 minutes for citizen speak. And the reason for that is the board has a lot of business to conduct during this time, and we could be here for an hour and a half in citizen speak, but we really need to have some kind of constraints. So if you don't make it tonight, perhaps you can make it another night. The procedure also provides that the citizen speak, you come in and give your name and address, and individual speakers are allowed up to 3 minutes. Now, some of you may want more than that. What I'd like to do is maybe we have a raise of hands. How many people want to speak at citizen speak here? There's one. All right, well, so that's not an issue. All right, so that was easy.
You should have asked that question first.
I know. So Margaret, you can have as much, well, not as much time as you want, but you can have up to 15 minutes if you want.
Someone else's name I have.
Well, so we're going to go into an executive session before our fourth item on the agenda, and so we asked her to come at 7:30, but I don't want to make you wait. Yeah. So if you want to have us go into her executive session and then come back in about 15 or 20 minutes for the citizen speak, we can do that, or you can do it now. I really don't want to make you wait. She's going to come by, and I'm going to reopen citizen speak for her at 7:30. So with that, the only other provisions in the policy are the the policy that we have is, and I'm sure you know, Margaret, to address the speaker should address the chair, and all speakers are encouraged to present their remarks in a respectful manner. That's not an issue with you, Margaret. No, I don't think so either. So with that, the floor is yours, Margaret.
Thank you, Mike. And good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
Our message here tonight is simple, very simple. All the unions have been fully committed to the process we are presently using to reach an agreement on health insurance. The unions have a long-standing history of successfully reaching agreements on health insurance with the town for many, many years. And we have been making progress presently, significant progress. There is no need to vote this evening, simply to use the PEC vote as leverage. Every union understands clearly what the impact of that vote means. The wonderful teachers here tonight, and by the way, all 6 schools are represented, are here so you can see the good people and the families they represent who will be greatly impacted by the changes in our health insurance and by the date of the implementation of these changes. These people came out on very short notice. It was only after Friday's IAC meeting that a word went out. We didn't have all the emails, and this is a turnout on 2 days' notice. So please understand, these good people are here because they want to be here, they want you to see them, they want you to be aware of the impact on them. We have been making significant progress at the table, and no vote tonight is necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Margaret. So, get back to my agenda. The next item on the agenda, excuse me, without objection, I would like to move to item 21 and take that out of order, which is item 21A, an executive session matter. It's an executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with union personnel, believing that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Zulish? Yes. Mr. Farrington?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
And Mr. Wells?
Yes.
So we'll be in executive session. I don't think it's going to be more than 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll be back for item 4 on the agenda. So I apologize for making people wait, but that's the way it goes. Ready? Are we back? All right, and we're back. And we're going to reopen Citizen Speak for Ms. Neville.
Okay, thank you very much. Very happy to be here. I didn't know I was going to have such a wonderful audience. All right. Do you mind if I kind of turn in both directions?
The
Just
only
grab
thing
the
is
mic,
if you could
okay.
talk into the
All
mic
right,
so that
okay.
people
I'll
at
just
home
sit
can
this
hear
way
you.
then.
You project very well, though.
Okay. I'm the chairperson for the Milton Garden Club for Garden History and Design Archives for the Smithsonian Institution. And it's something I've been doing for 17 years in the town of Milton. And I've documented 6 gardens. So far, all those gardens have been private gardens. But it occurred to me that it would be a wonderful project to archive the gardens in Milton that are on public land but are maintained by volunteers. Often the homeowner, who's property is next to this, or by Boy Scouts, the Amateur Gardeners of Milton, the Milton Garden Club, Boy Scouts, Pierce Middle School students. There are a number of groups and individuals who have taken over strange little plots of land, kind of forgotten pieces, and have taken care of them and made them very attractive. And so far, just driving around town, looking, keeping my eyes open, I found at least 50 of these plots. And I've been photographing them and beginning to get do some research on it. In order to do this project, I have to have the signature of the owner of the property, and that's why I'm here. It is, to the best of my knowledge, they're owned by the town of Milton. So I'm hoping, once you understand the project, that the appropriate person, or all of you, or at least one, will say that you're giving permission to have the land photographed. You are the owners, we're all the owners of the land, everybody here. So I need to get that signature. I want to show you two examples of the type of land, the gardens, that I've documented or am documenting. I love this one. This is over on Maple Avenue. And someone built a little wooden box, and in that wooden box, they have marigolds, cherry tomatoes, basil, onions. They've got a whole little vegetable garden growing there. Now, it's my understanding that that land is owned by the town because it's beyond the sidewalk. It's between the sidewalk and the street. So that's one example, and I think I brought, well, that's the only example I've got handy here. But that's the type of land. You may be familiar with the garden. I call it the Missing in Action Garden. It's a sort of a memorial to veterans, a very intriguing example. That would be another example. The horse trough would be another one. So there are a number of these. And if you're interested, I could leave you this. These are the archives that I've done before, all right? So if you're interested in that, and if you want to know what the submission looks like, this is how it looks. And here, this is the crucial paper. In order to proceed, I need to have this filled out with an official signature from whoever would be appropriate. Now, one other thing, I need to make a map of where these gardens are. And I think we've got an excellent map person at the DPW. I've dealt with him before. Hope he's still there. My idea would be to go with him with my list of the 50 gardens, where they're located, and we plot it out on this digital map. And if it turns out that some garden I've picked out is not on public land, I would leave it off, all right? I'm just guessing that these are on public land. So unfortunately, I don't want to do that work until I get permission to go ahead. Otherwise, I will have done all this work in vain. And they absolutely will not allow me to go forward unless I have a signature. The other thing I think it's interesting about this, we may be the first town in the United States to have these types of gardens documented. And I think that would really be fun to have that be a first. So do you have any questions?
So Ms. Neville, and usually citizen speak isn't question and answer, but we'll just do a little bit, but my suggestion is, and I think Mr. Wells has a question, my suggestion is we'll take all that material and we'll put you on the agenda for consideration and vote, maybe next Wednesday if we can fit it, or on the 25th, whatever is convenient for you. So we'll have you come in, and we'll actually have to, if you want us to vote it before you go ahead with Mr. Bishop from DPW and work on the plotting, I think we can do that. We can certainly do that. That's right.
Unfortunately, I teach my art class on Wednesdays starting from 7 till 9.
Okay.
Every Wednesday. Tonight's I'm off.
All right. So we'll have to work around you. We'll work around it. We'll figure it out.
Great.
And Mr. Wells.
Mr. Chair, I'm moving to item 8. I'm asking if we can move to item 18 on this, which is citizen speak response. And I'd ask if I'd make a motion that the chair sign this approval on behalf of all members of the board.
Well,
Or Mr. Dennehy, either one. Just an expediency of She's going to be running out of flowers quicker than you think. She's going to be videoing, taking pictures of snow piles.
Yeah, thank you. So a motion's been made. It's not on the agenda. But,
It's in the good, it's in the,
well, I appreciate it, Richard. So the
Okay.
motion's been made. Is there a second to the motion?
There is a second.
There is a second. So the motion's been made and seconded. Now we're on for discussion.
Let me
Ms.
say
Neville.
one other thing. The Smithsonian does not require that the person and the groups that are doing the work sign. That and they don't need to be listed. So and I checked that very carefully. Asked the people in Washington, do I have to have the workers sign? The answer is no. Their house numbers would not be listed. There would be no house numbers listed in any photos. So, and there will be no, if there's an individual in a photo, I have to have a permission from that person, the same as this type of signature. So far, there are no people in the photos.
And Ms. Neville, I appreciate all that. My only hesitation is this, we haven't seen this document yet.
Right.
We haven't considered the document yet. It's not on the agenda for consideration.
Right.
If someone may have a different view.
Right.
They haven't had an opportunity to come in. So that's
Exactly.
my hesitation to doing it now, with due respect, Richard, and that's my hesitation. Melinda.
So I seconded so we could talk about
Yes,
it.
please.
Ms. Neville, perhaps we could have a chance to look at everything.
Sure.
I'm very eager to see what you've been doing. Would it be all right for us to put it on the next agenda to vote it, even if you can't be here?
Yeah,
How
I
you
would
feel about
prefer
that?
not to
Yeah,
be here because I really
absolutely.
want to meet my class.
Right, well, I
Right.
know, yes.
Yeah.
So would
Yeah.
that be? all right?
Absolutely.
Fine with me.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And there's no deadline on this. I mean, it gets done whenever I get it done.
Okay.
There's no pressure that it doesn't have to be,
So you may be starting next spring?
yeah, great.
Richard, could we just vote it next time, just to?
fine,
see
all
that?
right. I just want to get it done, that you don't have to get
Yes.
it, and,
And to wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
okay.
All right,
All
I'll
right,
just
we'll
leave
have it
this with
on,
you.
we'll put it on for the 11th. You don't have to be here.
All right, excellent.
I'd be surprised.
It'll be
if-
voted.
Yeah.
It'll be voted.
I'd be surprised if there's opposition,
Okay.
but you never know.
Right.
So,
And I've got the list of the addresses, and all the photos are online. I've turned them over. So if anybody wants to look at the photos I've taken already, they're available.
Great.
And also the list of the addresses.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
If
you
could
for
just
doing
give
this.
give that to
All right,
Jennifer.
This is going to be a very interesting project.
all right.
All right, great.
Thank you, Ms. Neville.
Thank you.
Anyone else for any? Anyone?
It shows.
Anyone else for citizen speak? Let's go to item 4, discussion vote on whether to engage in the process to change health insurance benefits under Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23. Let me initially provide some background to this. This is on the agenda because the reality in Milton is not different than the reality anywhere else in this state and in this country, and that is the increase in health insurance costs. In Milton, those costs have increased. We're projecting 16% this year, which amounts to about $1.7 million. And so this board could do nothing with that, or it could take a look into ways to try to control those health costs and improve healthcare costs, both for the town and for the employees. Now, one way to look into controlling healthcare costs is through this statute, Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 to 23. That law was enacted and signed by Governor Patrick in 2011. It provides a process for towns to consider modifying health insurance benefits for town employees. Specifically, Section 21 sets out the procedure for considering and modifying the health insurance benefits. Section 22 allows the town to include in the co-pays and the deductibles amounts that are no greater than the dollar amount than those offered by the Group Insurance Commission, the GIC. And Section 3 allows a town to transfer its employees' health insurance benefits to the Group Insurance Commission, the GIC, if the right conditions are met. Now, tonight would be the first step in that process. The question is whether this board will accept those sections and will begin this process, this separate process for looking into alternative health insurance benefits. Now, why is it on the agenda tonight? As Margaret pointed out in Citizen Speak, we've been meeting off the record and informally since June to try to get a voluntary agreement. Those meetings have been marked by goodwill, good spirit, good faith, and those meetings are continuing. We have another meeting scheduled. So I fully expect that those efforts will continue. However, under the current contracts that the town employees have with the town, the first time that the health insurance plans could be changed and that the cost could be changed would be January 1st, 2020. And that's about 4 months away. And the process under this law, Chapter 32B, for considering, and if this board decides, and if we agree, if this board decides, the process for making those changes under that statute takes about 4 months. And this isn't anything new. We've all known since June that by the end of August, we would have to consider going down this route and going down this other process, because otherwise there's no way to get it done if the voluntary agreement isn't reached. There's no way to get it done by January 1st. So that is why it's on the agenda. That's why we're here tonight. And I will open it up for comments and discussion by the members.
Go ahead, you go first, Katie.
Go ahead.
No, go
You started
ahead.
the
No,
topic.
go ahead. I want to hear everybody else. I'll go
Well,
last.
first of all, I want to thank the chair and the vice chair, the town administrator and his team, and the unions who have all taken part in some of these negotiations to try to reach a compromise, and I hope that will ultimately yield a good result. I would support the motion. I think we have a fiduciary obligation to the residents and the taxpayers of the town to look at how we can possibly contain healthcare costs. It has been a significant increase this year. So I'm very happy that a lot of progress has been made, a lot of good discussions, good faith discussions have taken place on both sides, and I'm hoping that will continue and that will yield a good compromise. But I would support the motion at this time.
So a motion hasn't been made.
But I meant,
No,
sorry, I meant
no.
a motion
Fair enough, fair
to
enough.
accept the sections of the
Fair
statute.
enough. Other comments, questions, or motions? Ms. Collins?
Well, I don't like the prospect of supporting this tonight, because I feel like we have made great progress, and we've had a great working relationship, and I really think that it's going to bear fruit. And at the same time, I realize that our consultants are urging us to look at the timing in case we need to do the January date. So it's really difficult, because I don't really want to support it, because I think we are doing a really good job, but I do take that seriously, the timing issue.
Other comments, questions? Mr. Wells?
So as you know, I spoke when we were to you personally about this. I agree both with Katie with regard to, I'm grateful to the unions. I mean, for full disclosure, I've been in a union here, I've been in management here, and now I'm an elected official here. And I've always said that for all of us, as much as we represent the residents, each of us are only as good as the people who do the job for us. The teachers, the custodians, the police officers, the firefighters, the librarians, people who staff this building, the people who staff Town Hall every day. Historically, this isn't the first time this has happened. This goes back, I think this may be the third time. Mr. Zulus was on the negotiating team, I believe, the last time, correct? On the school side?
On the school side, yes.
On the school side for this. I've listened to our consultants, but they don't live here. And this is a historic vote that we've never taken. So personally, I would be voting no for it. I realize the window's closing. I've told both of you, you're both in the lead in this, and I support wholeheartedly what you're doing in this. And I do believe, in knowing all the people who sit on both sides of the table, that you can get this done. And that's where I'm at on it tonight. I would not be supporting voting to invoke 21 to 23 at this time.
Other comments? Mr. Farrington?
I would support a motion to invoke 21 through 23 for the following reasons. I've been a member of the board now for roughly a year, and decision-making is a lot more difficult than I initially thought, and we have many, many responsibilities as elected, and they are several and they are varied, but I think chief among them is to act as financial stewards for the town of Milton, for the collective whole. And I think invoking this is the financially responsible and prudent decision to make. It's not an ideal solution, certainly, but as electeds, we're faced with difficult decisions, and frequently we're asked to compromise. And I think that this is the smart decision. So I would support this motion.
Mr. Chair, can I ask?
Ms. Conlon.
I'm willing to make a motion. Is the correct language, because I heard you say accept, and I also heard invoke. I want to make sure I get the right language on a motion. Is it to invoke the statutory sections or to accept?
I believe it's to elects to engage in the process to change health insurance benefits under Mass General Laws,
Okay.
Chapter 30, to be Section 21 to 23.
Okay, then I'll move that the board elect to engage in the process to change health insurance benefits under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Let me say this. The balance here, in my mind, is the desires of the employees for us just to stick with the voluntary process that's going on, the off-the-record process, balanced against the fiduciary responsibility that we have to ensure that we can continue to pay health insurance costs for this town. And in my view, if we don't take this action tonight, then we may be foreclosed from carrying through that process by January 1st. And that's, I don't think it's, I don't think this board, in my judgment, should not be foreclosed from doing that. I think in some respects, I feel we have a responsibility to at least look at and consider the change and the change through this process. And so, so I'm going to vote in favor of the motion. I'm hopeful that our off-the-record process will yield results and that this process will die away. But I don't think this board can foreclose that avenue at this time. So the motion's been made and seconded. And any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
The motion passes 4-1. All right. Item 5 on the agenda, discussion approval of the acceptance of the memorial bench. I think this is, well, actually, we have people leaving, so. All right, I guess we can do it. Do you want to, Mike, do you want to take the lead on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Last week, I presented a petition to this group. I was approached by the sister of fallen Milton firefighter, Brian Carlson, about placing a memorial bench, them donating a memorial bench in his name at the front entrance to Engine 2 in East Milton Square. We've worked through with the specifications. That amount is just over $1,500, $1,502, and I'm asking for this board's support to accept the donation from his family. In a perfect world, the bench would be dedicated in Brian's memory in front of Engine 2 on September 29th, which would have been his birthday. So, very thankful they brought it to me. Very thankful to bring it to this board, and I hope you would accept their donation to place a bench in his memory at that location.
I'll make a motion to accept the memorial bench for former Milton firefighter Brian P. Carlson, purchased at a cost of $1,502, donated by the Carlson family.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just to reiterate, thank you to the family.
Thank you.
Very generous offer for the town.
Very generous, and we look forward to seeing the bench with the plaque, which we all have, and looks fantastic. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. I appreciate it.
Great, unanimous. I see Mike Lynch here, and I'd like to take item 12, the MPEG extension, out of order without objection of the members. All right, so we'll go to item 12, which is the approval of the MPEG contract. Pardon me, Mike Lynch from MPEG, the Milton Public Access Inc., MPEG Access Inc. is here. And we have before us a draft agreement that has been reviewed by our lawyers and has been approved by them.
That is correct.
Is there anything that you want to add or point out, Mike, with respect to the agreement?
I know I spoke with town council, and just so the board knows, it's pretty much the same agreement that's been in existence. We changed some reporting categories where we're just going to come in quarterly as opposed to yearly, and it just updated the funding percentage from the Comcast contract. Other than that, it should just be what was in existence before.
And then it provided also for the capital payments, which we didn't have before.
Correct.
So that was a bonus. So any comments, questions from the members?
Just want to say thank you for working on it and for the other work that you've done this year with the FCC. So
Oh, yeah.
appreciate it.
Still continuing on.
Yes,
I say it isn't over yet.
No,
Right,
no.
right.
And I'll be definitely keeping the board updated as to the decisions that happen.
I'll make a motion to approve an extension of an agreement between the town of Milton, Massachusetts, and MPEG Access Incorporated.
Just friendly amendment, can we just leave the
Sure.
words extension of, it should,
Okay.
it was
Right.
previously an extension, but not
Okay, so I'll make
extension
a,
agreement.
I'll do that. So I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between the town of Milton, Massachusetts, and MPEG Access Incorporated.
Second.
Mo-
No?
No, seconded.
Oh, okay.
It's,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All
Thanks,
right.
Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It's
Mike.
10 minutes of 8.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, we will go on to, what's that? We're on number 6. So item 6, and I don't know if we
He is.
have counsel here. Item 6 is a discussion and perhaps approval of the harbor master position. We have our lawyer here. There's been some back and forth. We've had this on the agenda for a couple of meetings. We've seen some memos on this going back and forth. I think what we have here is our lawyer who's given us some thoughts on this to answer any questions, and we can act on this or we can defer it. So, Mike, maybe I'll ask you to kind of.
Sure,
frame
Mr. Chair
this.
and members of the board, I'd like to introduce Town Council Paul King, who's been working on, he drafted some memorandums on this. Paul, if you'd like to join us at the desk there. Thank you for coming in, Paul.
You're welcome.
Could you just kind of briefly introduce yourself and just talk through some of the memos that we've been working through with respect to the harbor master position?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me here tonight. Like Mike said, my name is Paul King from Murphy Hesse. I was asked to kind of look at how the town might go about a couple different options for appointing a harbor master in an expanded role, potentially from what it already has. My office just kind of looked at the laws that would apply, kind of the different mechanisms that might be available to the board if they decide to go a couple different ways, and just lay out the steps that you'd have to go through to do that in accordance with the law. So I provided a memo. I know I've had a couple different discussions, and we've kind of talked through, if you want to go down this road, this is the step to go. If you want to go down a different road, this would be the step. Happy to take any questions, in addition to what I might already have laid out in a memo.
All right,
So we had a long conversation
Yeah,
today.
Mr. Wells.
So we had a long conversation today, Attorney King, Attorney Waugh, Mr. Denny and I, is just to try to find a way to work through this. A couple of things that are here that, that we discussed today that aren't in this memo is clearly the civil service part of it. One of the things that we think is that probably a prudent thing for us to do moving forward, but it'll take some time, is to file a town meeting article, in special, a home rule petition, correct? We need a home rule petition to do it as well?
Yeah, it would have to be special
To
legislation.
remove the harbor master position from the auspices of civil service, which would give us, the town administrator, more leeway in making appointment. Which brings us to the second thing, because as Katie knows, who sits on the Milton Landing subcommittee with me and the other members who sit on it, we're at the point where we need to do this. We've got to make some steps here. We're so close. We need to take some steps to this. So one of the thoughts that we talked about today was perhaps, and I'm not even sure, perhaps making Mr. Dennehy like the acting hub, because I looked at how the legislation went. I just took the chiefs since I talked to you today.
Mm-hmm.
So when we decided to remove the chiefs, there was an acting chief. Maybe we make the town administrator the acting chief, and maybe we authorize the town administrator to work out some type of negotiation where we have an assistant harbor master who works under the police department until we can get it out and give some permanency to this. And as Andy talked about, the question is how we work out the language and how we do that. But we need to do something sooner versus later. And the other thing, I think we need to do something that really brings some autonomy and some structure to this whole, because the use of the river is only growing, and the issues dealing with mooring, storages, taxes, regular, we don't know anything. I mean, Michael and I have been down there. We don't know anything. We need, that's the reason why you have harbor masters. I mean, it just, since I talked to you today, I went and I looked, so the town of Rockland has a harbor master, and they don't even touch the ocean, but they do. It's a stipended position, just, so that's, my only thought now is to maybe, I mean, I know we have a motion to propose. I don't think either one of these is the ideal permanent solution.
If I could suggest, Richard, do you want to put it on for next week and work it out, and does that make
Do
sense?
you think
or
we could figure this out in a week? Do you think we could?
Sure.
All right, when do we do that?
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it was a very,
I mean,
Ms.
sorry.
Collins?
That's okay. I just wanted, I think I heard you say something about making Mr. Dennehy.
Yeah, the harbor master.
Like the acting harbor
Oh,
master.
the acting harbor master, and then,
I thought you said the acting chief at one point.
no,
so
no,
I
no, no,
was-
Right,
no,
well,
no, no, no.
but
So I talked
I
about
think,
is
I
when-
think you meant.
Yeah, so
The
when,
acting harbor
in the
master.
time between the town removed the chief's job, I don't know if you looked at all this, Paul, in the time between they removed the chief's job and crafted and created the legislation under which the chief of police is appointed now, there was an acting chief that filled that, it's a common thing in civil service. There was an acting chief that filled that. So if Paul's correct, and the harbor master as an employee, not as the volunteer that we have now, falls under the auspices of civil service, then we could appoint an acting, and perhaps making Michael the harbor master, the acting harbor master in name, and having an assistant who carries out the duties, some duties that we work out until we remove this, and then appoint a permanent harbor master, let's say by next year. He's looking at me laughing, but
No, I
he
was,
wants it
I
to
was
be-
once the
well,
snows.
He wanted me to do it, and I'm like, no, it's not gonna be me.
I was once the snow czar, so
Yeah,
acting
so-
harbor master.
I think
fits.
that may be a way, am I right, Paul? Could be a way that we could make this work?
We could look into that. I know that the civil service laws do treat some temporary positions differently, but we could look at like a provisional appointment or something.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, it could be provisional is a second word that could be used as well.
Yeah.
Provisional falls on the civil service. So I think we could probably work this out maybe in the next week.
Ms. Conlon?
I have a question. So, Paul, part of your memo, you've given us two, and one of them talked about the Chapter 268A, Section 20 conflict issue. Is that no longer an issue if we go the route that Richard's proposing?
Well, I can look in to the conflict of interest laws more closely because there are specific exemptions in Section 20. This was a new option, so I haven't looked into the conflict of
Okay.
interest aspect on that yet. I was focusing more on the appointment side of it. But in terms of the exclusions, they're pretty broad when we're talking about administrators. But I mean, the statute is really aimed at getting paid twice for doing the same job. So in terms of if it falls under exclusion or whether it's just an acting position, I'd have to look into that more
So
closely.
is that going to be an issue, the conflict issue, if we had say, a police officer
Is it-
serving that role
If
also?
it's in the collective bargaining agreement, I've actually had a lot of conversations with the State Ethics Commission recently, and they take the position that there's no Section 20 violation if a position is covered in the CBA. So if there's a stipend position, part of the officer's CBA, they would treat it as they're all getting one paycheck for one job. So there wouldn't be a Section 20 issue if it's included in the CBA as part of the work that they do.
And I think what we talked about today, the assistant harbor master, while we work this out, would probably have to come from the police department. And that eliminates that, your issue as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So one other follow-up question, the personnel board job description that would need to be revised, is that correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay.
Other
I don't
questions,
think,
comments?
Andy didn't think it would take a lot, though. It won't have to be revised a
No.
lot. It may need a couple of tweaks, but nothing significant.
Ms. Collins?
Thank you. So a municipality would really only work with the Commonwealth's Human Resources Department if the position is subject to civil service
Correct.
law? Okay, I just
Correct.
wanted to make sure.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And this process that I've just talked about is a commonly used practice by many communities in exempting a certain position from the confines of civil service. It's actually, the more contemporary is actual whole communities removing everything from.
The only issue there is we'd have to go through town meeting, so we...
To do it, yeah, we have to go through town meeting.
So we'd have to put the
We'll have to put
provisional
this
in
on- we'll have
place,
to-
yeah.
we'll have to put the provision, and we want to move this for January. To
Yeah.
have this ready to go for January.
Okay. All right, so any other comments, Ms. Collins?
You buying a boat?
Is there- No, I'm not a voter. But.
Don't.
Is there a reason that we would want to keep it civil service?
No.
Okay,
I don't think.
thanks.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none, we will put this on for the 11th, and in the meantime, try to have a proposal baked and ready to go.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. King.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Thank you for coming in,
thank
Paul.
you.
Thank you.
All right, item 7 on the agenda is the conference with the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. Is the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee here?
Yep.
Liaison.
Bill's here as well.
Okay. So, we're going to hear from the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee and Mr. Clark, and then we have some residents who asked to speak, and we asked them to participate as well, so they'll speak after. Okay? All right.
We need to buy an easel for this one.
Mr. Ritchie is here as well. All right.
Voice of reason.
So we have Bill Clark, our of the
Planning Director.
Planning Director, Bill Ritchie, our Consolidated Facilities Director, and Mr. Daly of the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. The floor is yours.
So, thank you for giving us this time today. I'm Dan Daly, the co-chair of the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee, 15 Quarry Lane. And we're here today to, we passed in our committee the plan that you see before you. It's been 4.5 years in coming. We have selected a site. You know the site. You approved the site. We have, through the series of basically 2+ years, been designing a building with Rahaus Friedenfeld Associates, a really distinguished architect firm for animal shelters. We didn't know they existed before we began to design this, but they do, and they design excellent animal shelters. We've listened to the community, we've listened to the abutters, who I think you'll hear from later, on repeated occasions, and we've taken into account what they have requested of us. And we have produced the building that we think fits the space, fits the needs of the town, and fits the budget of the Milton Animal League. And, Bill knows the details of the site and the building better than I do, so I'll turn it over to him to go through the details of it.
All right. I sent you 2 different sets of pictures. We have been working with the architect. We keep telling the architect, no pens in the back. Move everything as far forward as you can. Take the building and press the building down. We want it as low as we possibly can. We've made the setbacks from the rear lot line 75 feet to the building. We have approximately 20 feet on the sideline, and we're required by zoning to have 15 feet, which is right in here, and that's 20 feet right now. We have a sloping roof for the part that's on the right, where you see the dark roof, our solar panels, that's on a slope roof. This part in here is a flat roof. The slope roof, and there's a wall right here that blocks the mechanicals that will be on the roof. The building is a masonry building, so that all of it is extremely soundproof on the inside. If you look at the very back of the building, right in this area here, that piece has a glass roof. It's 10 feet wide, it's 50 feet long across the back, and that allows more sunlight into the building. There are no rear outside pens. Right now, there are no pens at all on the outside. Should the Animal League need to get pens, the idea was to put the pens down here or right in here. This place right here drops off about 8 feet, so we really didn't want to go over there. That was the preferred place that the animal shelter wanted to go. We're physically constrained because of a quarry hole that's right here. When we went to Concom, they felt that this had the potential to hold water, so we said, fine, we'll mark it as a wetland on the plan. We will not go near your point here. We're more than 25 feet away from that edge in here. This little building on the side, this room on the side is a multi-purpose room that can be used for public meetings, can be used for dog training, can be used for anything that the Animal League or the town wants to use. It's a 25 by 25 room. There's a public bathroom in there, there's public access through the front. Parking is out here. There's extra parking down here where the old clubhouse trailer was, where the land is already cleared. This is a par 3, so it's a short shot from here to here. We weren't going to take and park cars down in here. We're trying to block out this particular view, block out the building itself, protect anybody that's going into the front of the building. We've moved the generator to the side of the building from the rear to the side. It's right in here. We've moved the dumpster down as far as we can so that it's easily accessible, but it's down in the front of the building. We are planning on taking across the back of the property, right in here. You can see there's a set of dotted lines. It's 10 feet across on the top and somewhere between 25 feet on the bottom on the base. And the idea is a 4-foot berm to take and plant a double row of spruce trees so that we're blocking out this house here. Inside the building, inside the rear of the building, in this area here, there are 20 dog pens ranging in size from large dog to small dog. There's 24 to 36 cat cages that come in the front of the building. And then the cats have their own sunroom, cat play sunroom, up in the front of the building right here. Again, the roof area in the back, in this piece right here, the shaded piece, is a acrylic roofing material that lets sunlight through. There is a glass wall across the back. There's no windows in that, although there is a door, a regular 3-foot door here and another 3-foot door here. This piece here is a patio. The patio can be accessed from the glass dog run area or from the multi-purpose room, so that you have a secondary egress out. There is a walkway that goes from the patio around the building to come out here. That's it. The only access point back there is that sidewalk. The new building design locates the building at least 170 feet from the back of the neighbor's house. It's more than 100 feet from the neighbor's pool in here. So with that, we started at 7,500 square feet. We're down to 5,100 square feet. That 5,100 square feet includes the multipurpose room, includes the dog pens, the cat room. It has a garage for the animal control officer, and it has two small rooms right here on this end of the building that are for surgical use in the future, only for the animal shelter.
My question.
Go ahead. We're looking at 2.8 million for the building. We know that we're going to spend probably 5 for the, for site work,
Site work, 500,000.
500,000.
On top of the 2.8, though?
I'm sorry?
On top of the 2.8?
Yes.
Okay.
One's the building, one's the site work. The site work, it's an extremely complicated site because of the old quarry that's in there. There's a ton of ledge in here. It is the cheapest spot, actually, to take and work on within that area, between going back and taking other areas in here, which would require more fill, and it's not as close to the utilities. It became much more, there's another piece of wetland up in here that's a potential vernal pool. Vernal pool would have maybe had to stay 100 feet away. So we have figured out how we fit into this area, and we've not quite shoehorned it in because we made the building smaller. We have taken and done everything we can to pull it away from the neighbors, to push it down so that the neighbors don't see it. We've taken and worked on the landscaping in the back to raise the landscape level in the back, and then put in trees that the Animal League has agreed to put in. So far, the idea is that everything that has been done to date hasn't cost the town anything. It's all been paid for by the Animal League. They have an agreement with the Select Board. We had a design, we had to send the design back out. The Animal League understood that. They came in and we cut and slashed the old building. We cut out rooms, we cut out hallways, made things smaller, did away with locker rooms and offices. We doubled up on office space. We shrunk the cat space, the dog space. We really shrunk the operating space, and we, especially the waiting areas and what would have been common areas have all been shrunk. It's 5,100 square feet as designed now. There's a lot of windows in it so that we get a lot of solar to it. We actually have solar put on the roof. It is, because of the type of building it is, there needs to be a lot of air exchange Because of that, there are mechanicals, and the mechanicals are up here in this, this is a wall, a sound wall to take and protect the neighbors from that sound and sight.
All right, anything else, Mr. Ritchie?
No, like I said, Bill's done a great job, but I think we've done everything we possibly, we've gone, it's been a process of 4.5 years. We've gone back to the architect 3 or 4 times. We met, we downsized. I think, myself being a former builder, I think it's a beautiful site. I think we did everything we could with the building. I think we can't really make it any smaller. We really couldn't move it because of all the obstacles on the land. So, I can't wait to go. It's been a long time.
Questions, comments from the board?
I'll go last.
Anyone?
I have a few.
Mr. Farrington?
Bill, the chair asked this question earlier. It's budgeted for 2.8 and then an additional 5 for the site work, or
Yes.
2.8? Okay, so
No,
it's 3,
it's 3.3.
3.2, 3.3, 3.2, roughly.
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
2.8 and 5 is 3.3.
And it's entirely privately funded.
Yes,
Doesn't cost the town a thing.
Nothing.
no.
Not a nickel, not a dime. You don't get gifts like this very often.
And on average, and maybe you can't answer this, but roughly speaking, to the extent you're able to answer this question, on a daily basis, how many dogs are in custody of the animal shelter at any one time?
Six.
Single digits, double
Six.
digits?
Single digits.
Six.
Yeah.
5, 6.
Six. It's more than dogs. It's dogs, it's cats, it's...
There's a lot of, it's
Well,
cyclical.
I mean, to
Yeah.
be fair,
It's
I
sim-
understand that it's more than dogs, but I think that the objection, to the extent that there are objections, is really focused around the dogs, more so than any other animal that might be in custody of the shelter. That's really what I'm driving at. That's the
When-
reason I'm asking the
When we
question.
started this whole process, I think the first set of meetings we had on this were in 2007. When we first started this, the people at Indian Cliff wanted their animal shelter to stay in that location. They didn't want it to leave. They don't have an issue with it. As Pulte was being developed for Milton Woods, they didn't have an issue with the animal shelter staying there. The issue is it's on the
Governor Stoughton
Governor Stoughton land, and it cannot stay there. It
Right.
needs to be,
Right.
they would have had to have bought the land at market rate.
Right.
They can't afford to take and buy the land at market rate in that particular area.
Right.
So we've looked everywhere for a site, this is that site. The way the dogs are handled are, the dogs go in, they have their pen. They get taken out of their pen and they go for a walk. They have X amount of people at any one time that go to the animal shelter to take and walk dogs. It's not uncommon to go to the animal shelter and see 6 cars because there's people out there walking dogs or just inside,
Volunteering. They
petting the
volunteer,
dogs,
yeah.
cleaning up after the dogs. But every dog gets walked several times a day.
Sure.
So it's not a case of, I take my dog, I put him outside, he has a run, or I let him out in my yard and he stays in the yard. This isn't what happens to these dogs. These dogs only get walked. So it's not a case of take them and forget them.
No, I understand.
Can I just add-
There's a lot of interaction between the public.
Mr. Dennehy?
Can I just add one thing? So,
Please.
Bill Ritchie can testify to this. The building up there now needs to come down. The town is spending money on that building to the point where ceiling tiles fell in on the animal control officer last week, and it's not a good place at this time. And the longer this goes on, the more tax dollars we're actually putting into a building that should be long gone, so.
In a more dire note, the more time that goes on, the more we run the risk of something truly catastrophic happening there. That whether it's a fire, whether it's a total building collapse that kills all the animals inside, and I don't want to see that we're at the day that we're looking at each other, as they're carting. It just, many people never go there. And for myself, before I owned a dog, even though I had responsibility for it as police chief, I really went there. But these people came into this room, I think in like 2012 before the board. And I think the answer from the board then was, if you can go out and raise $250,000, we'll listen to you. And they themselves have gone out and raised cans and almost $1 million on top of that gifts. we're at the point where, to your point, Michael, the building is gonna fall down. Is that, if you've got all your requirements, you're approved to go, Concon, planning board, everything,
There is no planning board.
There's no planning board 'cause-
Concom, yes.
site approval.
It's already, there
It's
is
all
no
done.
site plan approval. It's just, find the builder and we go to the building commissioner.
Do you
When
have,
would you look to break ground on it?
As soon as we figure out the bid process and the prevailing wage, both of which are sitting with town council.
So seasonally, like fall, spring? I mean, just, can you ballpark it for us?
Yes,
Okay.
if, the quicker we can take and get the rest of the money, if, the quicker the Animal League gets confirmation of the money, the quicker we start. If they came in tomorrow, I'd say we'd start this fall.
Okay.
Other questions, comments, Ms. Collins? Oh, Ms. Conlon.
Go ahead.
Oh, well,
I'm
that.
swiveling.
You
I'm swiveling, Ms.
Sorry.
Collins.
So that was a question. I was wondering how you were doing, raising the funds.
Well, I'm not a member of the Milton Animal League, so I can't speak directly to that, but
Alyssa, the president, was supposed to be here tonight, but she has to take an 8 o'clock flight from Philly. And I didn't think we could wait till 10 to get
No.
her in here, so she's not here. But I know that it is her task to approach her funding people and say, this is what we need.
Right. So I guess I have one more question. If it's that unsafe, should we be thinking about temporarily suspending operations?
I don't think you can legally. Well,
You couldn't transfer the
Well,
animals
I
to
think
other
that's why
shelters?
Mr. Ritchie goes up there and, does things like replace the roof. When the tiles fell in, the crew goes up, they look at, some of the rafters were rotted out. They go in, they put in new rafters, they put down new plywood, they put down a new rubber sheet.
So you're feeling
They
okay?
go in and they bring it up to safety standards that it's not going to fall and hit her in the head again.
Yeah, I have to say.
Not that part.
Yeah, from a facilities point, it's not unsafe. It's just an old building. We're just wasting our
Right,
resources.
wasting
Putting
resources,
Band-Aids on.
right.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
as
I mean,
long
we
as-
spent,
yeah.
last week, we did a $1,500 repair that would cost probably $7,000 if we subbed it out, but I had to use 2 of my men for almost a week.
Right, so
repairing
they
the
weren't
wall, the
doing
roof,
other
the
things
ceiling.
for
It's just
schools.
just putting good money to bad in a bad building.
Yeah.
When we built it in 1979, we didn't expect that it would have to last
That
this long.
Yeah, okay.
ever expect to
Ms.
last this long.
Ms. Conlon.
I think my question is for Bill Ritchie, and Bill, you can probably anticipate it, because it's the same question every time the committee's been in over the years. I'm mainly concerned about the operating costs of the building going forward. We've got very generous people who have donated, and organizations have donated to building the building, and I'm glad it's been reduced and the size has changed, and the design has changed, I think, to something that's probably a little more appropriate than some of the original grander designs. Can you speak to, Bill mentioned solar panels on the roof, can you speak to some of the costs? I know that one of the things the committee and the architect were focused on was trying to make this as an energy-efficient, cost-efficient building as possible. So for, people who might be watching who know that this building's being built through generous donations, but the town is then going to absorb all the operating costs once it goes into effect, can you talk a little bit about how that's being addressed through the design and through the solar panels and anything else?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, it's a very efficient building, but you still have to look at the size of the building. It's still a 5,000 square foot building.
Yeah.
That's gonna come with a cost, but you're gonna have gas heat, electricity. So I think the animal, they're gonna constantly have to try to get some fundraising to pay for some of the operation costs. I think the maintenance, consolidated facilities, the labor's free, but somebody's gonna have to pay for the material, for the basic things. Snow removal would be free hopefully from the DPW, but, if
Because we're gonna have to add that access road now, it's gonna have to be plowed.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, it's not used now, but we're gonna have a use of it.
Well, the good thing is the gas company plows it to the,
Yeah. To the pump
no,
station?
well, they plow
To
to
the
the pump
intersection,
station, but they
yeah.
plow to the access road that goes around the landfill. So all we're doing is going from the access road that goes around the hill, just straight ahead up to the cleared trailer site.
I have a follow-up to Katie's question, which is, I know we have access panels on the roof of Town Hall. So obviously, putting the access panels on a green, it's obviously gonna have energy efficient windows, lighting and all that.
Right.
What percentage do you perceive the solar could save us in the energy costs of
Yeah,
the
I mean,
building?
it's not a real big solar array system. It's not about, maybe 15 to 20% tops.
Savings.
Yeah, on the electric bill, you mean? It's not huge. You need so many more solar panels to do that. But it is an efficient building. People always are amazed. They say, it's an efficient building. But when you talk, state-of-the-art ventilation, you're still ventilating
Yeah.
a lot more than the average home, but,
We have the potential that we could potentially look at more ground mount somewhere around the building, so that we might,
Ground mount more solar panels.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that would remove, like below the berm
Right.
in the back. You wouldn't see it. It faces the right way. I mean, that's facing north now, so coming in from the southwest is just what you want, and that's what that area is facing.
I think anything like that we can do, only to cater
Right,
to
but I
costs.
mean, these are.
Now's the chance to do it. I mean, it's just, and to the animal shelter's credit, I don't think any of us could even comprehend the man-hours and the labor and the money that they put towards running of this constantly, for as long as they've existed.
Ms. Conlon?
So I have a follow-up question, so to that point, Bill, that even though it's an energy-efficient building, obviously, we're still gonna have some increased costs here, and that'll impact the operating budget going forward. I guess my question is, this multi-purpose room that's on the side of the building,
Yes.
Bill, you mentioned this could be open to public for other uses. What is the role it's gonna play for the animal shelter itself? Never mind, so a public body wanting to have a meeting there. And I guess the question is, if that would be eliminated, because right now on this drawing, it has a public restroom, general storage, a kitchenette.
All of that gets shared with the rest of the building.
Can the shelter stand
so-
alone without this little wing? And is there a real need for that for purposes of the animals? And is that something we should revisit so that we can hopefully reduce operating costs even more?
You potentially could. The other part to that was, the animal control officer was looking for a place that, when we have emergency shelters for people, we do not have places for emergency shelter for animals. So if you have a dog, you have to bring a cat, you may not be able to bring that too. If we have our emergency, our shelter areas in a school, you might not be able to bring that animal to the school. We have the potential that we could use the high school, take and put animals into the garage section, but that doesn't always work. It was the animal control officer's desire to be able to have this as during emergency purposes, be able to turn that room into emergency shelter.
All right, and I guess just to respond, I mean, I hear that, and I have a lot of respect for the animal control officer. I'm just wondering if it would achieve a significant cost savings. It might even achieve the reduction in the building cost if that wing were eliminated. I mean, I would think that if we're talking about bringing, and I don't know what happens now, do people bring pets to a school or something else for an emergency shelter? Isn't there enough facility with all these pens to house some additional pets, rather than having the multi-purpose room? It's just a question. I'm not a pet owner.
And I don't have that
I
answer.
don't have any
That's-
real experience in this area, but, given our operating budget needs, I just think we want to be as careful as possible for adding operating costs. And if that would achieve significant savings, it might be worth looking at. If it's not going to achieve a significant savings, then it's probably not worth pursuing. But I would be curious to know what the cost would be if you eliminated that wing.
As we move forward into construction documents, we can look at what it would cost, what the cost savings would be to not have that part of the building.
Can I ask one question? In 2014, there was a design that was, am I correct, 2014? There was a design that was
Close
brought-
enough.
What was the square
Blue
footage
sky.
of that design? The one that, the picture was recently on the front
Right.
page of the
Like
Milton Times.
4,000?
Was it almost five, that was about five, close to
Yeah,
5,000
4 or
as well,
5,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So we're back to where we were around 2014.
Yeah, you're talking the blue sky
Yeah, whatever it was,
picture,
yeah.
the yellow building?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I get the, oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
I get the part, I fully understand. We are required, as Michael sits on our, both of you sit on the LEPC, care and protection of animals which is the whole southeast coast looking at right now is doing the same thing. is an obligation on us. We're required under DHS standards to do that. But the other thing too is, one of the things about that room is they hold rabies clinics, they do vaccine, they do that, all that stuff, and right now they're all piecemealing it, trying to find places to do it. So for 25 by 25, if we can make it work, I think we should try and do it. We're only gonna get one chance to do this, we need to do it right.
So we want to give the abutters an opportunity. They've been waiting very, very patiently. I do have one question. Bill, if you could, just very briefly, could you just go through what's been done to respond to the request from abutters?
Sure.
Is there a list of things that you've done to respond to requests?
We've
from
taken the
abutters?
building and we pushed it as far forward to the access road as we can. We've taken the roof line and pushed the roof line down. We've pushed the building down into the ground a little bit. We've taken and built a berm across the back and worked with the Animal League to come up with an agreement to take and plant giant blue spruce trees across the back. And it would be a double row, one offset the other, which is why that 4-foot-high berm is 10 feet across on the top. That 10 feet across on the top probably makes the footprint probably 20, 25 feet. We pushed it forward so that we're 75 feet off the corner of the building to the closest point on the pool, which would be from that point to that point, that's 75 feet. We're 170 feet from the corner of the house to this corner here, which is the closest one. We've taken the roof line itself and pushed this part down. The only part that's up is this one here, and it's at this one right here.
Yep.
It's at such an angle that it is being blocked out by these trees right here. Also, the ground tips this way. Our drainage goes in this direction, across the front, doesn't go to the back.
Generator, we moved
The generator, we've taken it off the back of the building where the electrical room is right here. We've taken it off the back of the building and moved it over to the side. It's a little bit longer run for the wiring, but it is what it is. We didn't want it on the back of the building because of noise, we moved it out here. We moved the dumpster down here. It's away from, the back of the building. Originally, it was going to be in here. We moved it down. We eliminated dog pens across the back. There are no dog pens across the back. If there would be dog pens, they would wind up being in here or right in here. And
Attached to
those-
the building or separate from the building?
Separate from the building. It's just a fenced area. They're in, and they have to hose down something inside
I get it,
the
I
back
get
of the
it.
building. Can you go to the next slide, Jen? Maybe, maybe not. There we go. So this line right here is 10 feet in from this one to here. From here to here is 50 feet. So we have 10 dog pens, and they say exterior. They're not exterior. They're exterior because they're out under the plastic roof, the acrylic roof. These are the interior ones because they're interior to the building. This is the sidewalk, goes around to this patio. This is it. We have the access to these. You can see the amount of, the topography, how it slopes off. So other than that, we've made the building smaller. We moved it off the sidelines, moved it off the rear lot line. We pushed it as far forward as we can. We've taken and depressed the building, and we put in the vegetation.
Great. We have some residents who've been very patient, and I apologize for making you wait so long, but
Thank you, Bill. Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
thank you
Bill.
all.
Yep.
Don't leave, because we may have a few questions. And so we received, this is Mr. and Mrs.
Brendan Ridge.
The Ridge.
Ridge, yep.
Ridge, yes.
Yep.
We received an email, and they've been interested, obviously, in this project. We
Yep.
received an email, and we said that they'd come in and talk during this presentation. And so if y'all could identify yourselves, and let's hear what you have to say.
I'm Nicole Perona, but we can be the Ridges.
Oh, sorry. Apologize.
Brendan Ridge, 11 Jill Kathleen
You're
Lane.
giving yourself an alias already?
And I'm Nathaniel Donahue, and I'm their attorney. And they asked me to be here tonight, and I'll say a few words, and then I think they would like to address the board as well.
Great. And if you could just talk a little into the microphone, just so people can hear
Certainly.
you at home.
Certainly. So, before we begin, we have a few things we would like the board to look at, which Nicole will pass out here.
Yeah, we'll take, yeah.
And we should start by saying that the ridges,
Yeah, make sure the chair and the vice chair gets one, yeah. Yeah.
These are emails from Jill Kathleen residents.
so the ridges are here today because they've been involved with this process somewhat, but there are other neighbors who have written letters supporting the ridges position, and that has been passed out to the board. The ridges are not opposed to the construction of an animal shelter. They understand the need, that the old animal shelter is dilapidated or needs to be replaced. They have, however, encountered difficulties in working with the committee, the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. And that's what we're here today to really discuss. To sort of jump to the punchline, this plan, which you saw today, was just delivered to us about 24 hours ago and only sort of accidentally disclosed to us. We previously had seen plans that had large exercise dog pens in the backyard and had not taken into account many of the mitigation elements that we had requested that the committee consider.
I should note, those are the plans that we saw in the newspaper as well, which originally prompted us to reach out.
Okay.
So the Ridges became involved back in 2018, sort of halfway through 2018. They found out about this plan to build this animal structure directly abutting their backyard. They immediately reached out to the committee. They had some conversations. There were meetings from August through November of 2018, and at that time, my firm was retained to represent the Ridges, and two of my colleagues appeared at some of these meetings with the committee. The meetings were a little bit contentious at times, but everyone worked in good faith. And by the end of November, it sounded like things were on the right track.
That were or were not?
Were on the right track by the end of November 18. The committee had heard many of the concerns of my clients and had promised to undertake certain mitigation factors, which you heard today. They also promised open lines of communication and to update the Ridges regularly on the plans and the committee's activity. That never came to pass. There was no communication from November 2018 until now. And this is despite the Ridges having reached out to both the committee members, Mr. Clark, who is the designated point of contact, and other town officials, requesting that other people intervene and get the committee to reach out to the Ridges and to talk with them. So it went on that way for a little while, the Ridges trying to reach out to the town and the committee. In May of 2019, the Ridges saw an article in the Milton Times that said that the animal shelter had run into financial troubles, it had gotten too large, the designs, and so it had to be scaled back. At that point, we sort of sat back and said, okay, once the committee reworks its design, they'll get in touch. The next we hear about this project is, again, through a Milton Times newspaper article, not the committee reaching out. It was an August 25th article. It explained that the committee had approved the final plans for the animal shelter, and they had done so at a meeting on August 15th. There were plans published with that article. Those plans were dated August 7th. The plans that you're looking at today are August 29th. The August 7th plans were also sent to the Ridges by Mr. Clark as the final plans. They are substantially different. I have copies if the board would like to see them. They're substantially different from the plans that have been proposed here today. They did not include many of the mitigation factors that we requested. It was a much larger structure with playpens stretching out into the backyard. I should note that back in November of 2018, it was promised that there would be no permanent dog exercise yards in the structure, and that if there was any need for any type of fenced-in area, it would be temporary while the dogs were getting ready to be walked. Designs that we saw showed, shelter for the dogs outside, and so it was clear that those, the committee was at least exploring options that were not in line with what they had explained to the Ridges they would do. It was only by accident, I said earlier, that we discovered that there were these alternative plans. I don't understand how a plan dated August 2019, August 29th, 2019, could have been approved in an August 15th meeting by the committee. But here they are before us today. And these plans do take into account many of the mitigation factors that the Ridges originally requested. Our problem is the plans seem to change regularly and quickly, and we would like some finality on the plans. We would like to understand whether or not these plans are final. I noted during the committee's presentation, they said a couple times, "as designed now." So that is a concern of ours. We would like whatever the final plans are to be final, to be published. These plans are currently not published on the committee's website, so the public does not understand what the committee is looking at and proposing. We would also like details added to this plan. This is a 2-page plan. Other plans that we've seen in the past have been 5 or 6 pages at a minimum. We would also like details beyond the 5 or 6 plan outline, such as the dimensions of the berm, which we heard for the first time today, how those dimensions were arrived at, what the thinking there was. We would like to understand what the fenced-in area is on the back right-hand corner of the building. It's not labeled currently. There has been an allusion in some communications to soundproofing materials. We would like to understand what those are, how those were selected. And again, I would like to note that these concerns are not just the Ridges, but are shared by all of the neighbors in this area. So we would like additional information. We would like finality on proposed plans, published plans so that the public can understand what is happening. And we would like, really 2 more things. Some effort to mitigate the disruption that the construction will cause to the neighborhood. Our initial theory is maybe we construct the berm first so that the berm acts as a natural barrier. The committee, construct the berm first. That's just a theory. But it's important to the community that the construction of this facility not disrupt them overly. And finally, we would like to renew our request for an open line of communication with the committee. That's really fallen off in the last 9 months, and it's a shame because it does seem like the committee is willing to at least consider many of the proposals that the Ridges, proposals and concerns that the Ridges raised. And we don't think that that is too much to ask, and it's in line with what the committee promised back in November of 2018. So with that, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd just comment, I think we're pretty reasonable. As we've said a number of times, we don't have anything against the shelter. We were looking for some flexibility on where it was positioned, some of the design elements that would be very disruptive to us. I realized that the way it was presented tonight, it did seem like we were somewhat unreasonable because it seemed like a lot of the elements that we were requesting were present. You need to keep in mind that this wasn't disclosed to us until yesterday, and the plans that we saw were vastly different. Now, with that said, I'm not saying we're 100% satisfied because I think we still have a number of questions, and frankly, we don't know how to get them answered. And that's really what we're looking for here is, again, because we've been requesting this for over a year now, open lines of communication, an opportunity to sit down, work out some of the details that are going to be impactful for us. An example would be we've heard about measures that were going to be taken to mitigate the sound. Well, what about the open area where the dogs are going to be held? I realize it's not open, it's a glass area. Is that soundproof glass? Like, these are questions that we have that we would love answered, and we can't get them answered. The only way we get questions answered is by someone posting an article in the Milton Times, or by enlisting the help of an attorney. And that doesn't seem like the right way to do things.
Ms. Barona? You all,
I'll say a few comments. I mean, again, we are supportive of the structure. Our first preference was to shift it over about 200 feet. I still don't understand why it can't be done. I think a structure of this size can absolutely fit in between the 25-foot wetland buffers that are identified, and I understand exactly where they are. I think it all comes down to cost, that the committee or whoever's Copeland Fund or Foundation is funding, whatever it may be, that would be the best thing, to put it between the two streets and not really affect the neighbors at all. We're the direct abutters. And I understand that the committee has pushed up the building, done a lot of things that we have asked on paper. My concern is, how do we know this is really true? How do we know this will happen? There's been a lot of different plans. There hasn't been an open line of communication. I don't quite understand the berm. I know what a berm is, but I don't understand how it's supported. I don't know what to believe, and I'm also very skeptical that plans will be changed on the fly during construction, as they often are. So I'm definitely concerned about the building as a whole.
all right, well, we've had the plans presented to us. This is, made public to this board, and hopefully the process will improve going forward, and you'll be able to attend the meetings and give your feedback, and there'll be communication with the planning department and you, to the extent that, there is any change or there's things that can be improved. I think, I guess I welcome any comments, but I think from the perspective of this board, we want our advisory committees to work, right? And we want our advisory committees to get the input and respond to the input from the residents. And it appears from this plan, from what you say, that they have responded, but I guess we just need to make sure it continues and it happens a little bit more frequently.
How do we do that?
Well, my suggestion is that to go to the meetings, certainly, and hopefully our representatives will take the feedback from you
Right.
and reach out to you going forward.
The meetings are posted online like 5 days before they happen.
That's all
That's
they're
typically,
required.
it's
That's all
a,
they're required to be.
yeah,
So-
usually our meetings are posted 48 hours before. So
Yeah.
that's the public requirement. That's the law, basically. So, to the extent that people can reach out to you and give you some heads up that a meeting's coming up, and maybe that will be helpful as well.
Right, and I think that we understand and appreciate the public requirements and the law. What was represented to us and promised to us was direct communication,
Okay.
specifically by Mr. Clark, who is designated as a contact point. That has not happened at all, and that's despite the Ridge's attempts to reach out to the committee members. I think that's why there's some frustration and some concern that going forward, communication might not change. This pattern might not change.
Well, let's hope that it does, Mr. Wells.
So just, we're 10 years into this.
I'm sorry?
We're 10 years into this. This isn't like we just woke up one day and this, matter of fact, this predates all of us on this board, all of us. Site, all of this predates us. To the committee's defense, we don't micromanage committees or boards, we just don't do that. They're residents just like you are, and Mr. Clark and Mr. Ritchie are our our internal personnel assigned to this. Bill, to his defense, wears many hats and manages many projects, the animal control, the animal shelter being one of them. And Bill Ritchie oversaw the building of all of our schools. So he's well-versed in what's going on, and I think all of us have faith. You just heard their presentation, where they're at. This has been a difficult thing, but we need to get this done. I hear your concerns, and I agree with the chair, Mr. Zulus. You may not get everything you want, but your best thing is go to the meetings and voice your concerns there. I say that to you, counsel, and I say that to both of you. You're the first complaints, and we hear a lot of complaints. I've heard no complaints from any residents at all, and I've followed this very closely since it began. But I'm not here to
We've
debate it with you.
documented
I'm just saying
everything.
it.
Take a look.
I'm just saying it. I'm not here to debate this with you. And to the last point, as far as the construction, I don't see the construction of this to be anything bigger than any other projects that are going on in your neighborhood right now, to include your street, the O'Neill project that's going on, the Bench project. We do consider, we want this to fit in and not to alter the quality of life that you have. And the animal control shelter sits in a neighborhood now and abuts many homes at Quissa Brook, and it's a much less, well, so have you seen it? And I can't even remember a noise complaint there ever. So I think
There's
in
no
the end.
houses next to it, they're all abandoned.
next to it.
Well, I'm just telling you, there are neighbors behind it. Well,
I mean,
I've been there many
the houses
times,
around it
so,
are abandoned.
behind it.
So you have our contact information. You have an interested, engaged board here that wants to make sure that your voices are heard. So going forward, hopefully this new plan addresses many of your concerns, and then going forward, anything else will be surfaced and dealt with. And if it's not, if you're dissatisfied, just reach out to us, reach out to me, and we'll do our best to shine a light on it. Okay?
Mr. Chair.
And, Ms. Collins, sorry.
So it seems to me this has been a communication issue largely here.
Absolutely.
So I think, given that these are direct abutters, I appreciate everything that Richard has said and the chair has said. I think that where these are direct abutters who have been raising some issues for quite a while now, I think we need to ask the committee to be proactive in notifying them of when the next meeting is. And then if you're at the next meeting, we've gone through this on the Master Plan Implementation Committee. Our Milton Village project, it wasn't notified originally to all the abutters. Once that we got beyond that hurdle and they started coming, we did try to reach out proactively to that group, and then because they were coming to the meetings, they could kind of get the word out amongst themselves. So I think I would suggest that this board direct the planning staff to notify Mr. Ridge and Ms. Perona and/or their attorney when the next meeting will be, and then at least going forward, if you're able to be at that meeting, you'll know when they schedule the next meeting, and if they don't schedule that meeting, then I think we'd want the staff to. I propose we have the staff reach out and at least let them know. And I also think we ought to have, stepping back a little bit, we need to look at that MOA, and I haven't looked at it recently, but there are some steps in there, and I'm not sure whether we need to have an approval of this site, or, so there's probably a vote that needs to be taken at some point, but before we do that, I'd like to direct the planning department and the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee to meet with Mr. Ridge and Ms. Perona to try to see if we got final design, do we have final agreement on these points. We also got, I believe what they're saying, because we got a design last week that was not this design, it was a different design. And this design came in, I had to call the town administrator and Mr. Clark to try to get a little clarity on what exactly was before us tonight. So I think that's similar to what Mr. Ridge and Ms. Perona have encountered, and we should really avoid that from happening. We should make sure that if there's a design, we need to get it to the hands of the immediate abutters as well as to the board. So I appreciate the comments that have been made tonight. I think we can do better in terms of communication, and we should do better.
So let me suggest this. We can, I think, just procedurally, we can direct the town administrator to direct the planning department to keep them in the loop. And the advisory committee is our committee, so we can certainly direct them to keep you in the loop. So, I think you're right, Katie. I think those would be good steps to make our side a little more, not our side, but make the town more proactive, town government more proactive for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
That'll be ideal.
And just, I also want to add, as Richard said, this has been going on for long
Yeah.
before any of us were on the board.
Yeah.
So we'd like to try to, and the league is trying to raise money, and there's a lot of things that they need to know that are final before they can finalize all of their fundraising. So I think there's some real need to hasten this process a little bit, and if we can get enough adequate information to the abutters and to all the interested parties and try to move this along quickly, I think that would be in everybody's interest here.
We'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you for coming. Sorry about the wait.
No,
You
no
caught-
problem.
You caught us,
Thank
you caught us on a busy night.
Bill?
Oh,
Bill's got his hand
oh, is it, what is it, Bill?
It's, yes, a lot of it had to be my fault. But back in May, the Animal Shelter Committee directed the architect to come up with new plans. Cut the building, and that's what we came up with.
That was in our direction, by the way.
Yep.
We directed them to do that.
Yep, and we did that from May. He gave it to us on August 7th. On August 7th, he gave us a plan that, when the committee looked at it, had the runs in the back. That's the stuff that was put into the Milton Times. The committee looked at it and said, get rid of the stuff in the back. Make the building smaller. The building was bigger on the paper. We sent them back and we said we wanted new plans for a meeting on the 15th. We wanted them by August 9th. We got plans by August 9th for the meeting on the 15th. But when we looked at them again, every time we got the plans from them, there's a scale in each one of these pictures. None of the scales matched up. So we kept sending it back. Fix the scale. We can't figure out where things are. Send it back. He told me that he had fixed it. I was on vacation on the 28th. I sent it to you. I'm doing this from my phone.
Yep.
So I'm trying to open this huge file on my phone. I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's the wrong plan. I call the guy, he sends me the next day the plan. So that's why you got on the 29th, 2 sets of plans within 10 minutes of each other. The first one was the wrong one. The first one's the one that they saw with the stuff in the back. The second set is that set that's on the board right now. These plans, I've had to go back to the architect easily 10 times because the scales don't work.
Yep.
And it was just his people driving me nuts with trying to make this thing fit. It isn't something that I'm going to take and keep going to the neighbors, going to the committee,
Yeah, I
saying I
understand.
can't get it to work. I made the thing work, it came back. These are the revised plans from the 29th. These are the ones that the committee has already voted on. The committee took a vote that Alyssa should be able to talk directly to the architect and make him come down to 5,100 square feet, which is the numbers that are on that board right now.
So I don't think anyone doubts that everyone is doing their best and working hard and working in good faith and working in goodwill. We're just going to improve the communication, that's all.
Absolutely.
And we're going to address the concerns and improve the communication.
May I have
Mr.
1 minute?
Mr. Daly?
So the only family that we've contacted, that I contacted directly, were the Ridges.
Okay.
I reached out to a number of times. I met with Nicole
Yep.
in my backyard to discuss this. We have had an enormous amount of communication. We gave them 3 hours of the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee's time.
Yeah.
No other citizen spoke. I, as the co-chair, gave them that time because we needed to hear from them. We have taken into consideration what they have asked, but we got to a point where we needed to move forward. And so the communication was clearly there. We have heard the Ridges. They should feel heard, especially as we look at this.
And
Should
we,
certainly feel
and
heard.
let's just,
Well,
let's
yeah.
not get into a back and forth. We have to move on in the
But
meeting.
I just,
Go ahead.
I
Yep.
let the record show
Yep.
that I reached out to them from August
Yep.
through November to get their input, and that's what we needed. These are public meetings.
Yep.
They can find the meetings and they can show up.
Yep.
And I would have given them some more time,
Yep.
but I explicitly reached out to them. It is untrue that we did not communicate with them.
All right.
Let the record show that.
And the record will show it, and we're all doing our best, and we're all volunteers, and we're all neighbors, and we're all residents, and we're all going to work hard to make this happen, and we're all going to communicate a little, if we need to communicate a little better, we'll communicate a little better and make this happen. So thank you very much. Thank you for all your time. I'm sorry for the three of you that it's a late night, and Bill, you're not going anywhere because we have you on another item, but thank you so much. And Mr. Daly, it's heard. It's definitely heard. And I appreciate it. There's usually two sides, at least two sides to every story, but going forward is what's important. Let's get it,
Sure.
make sure we get it right going forward. So,
Good.
thank you. All right, item 8, Ms. Kinsella. I'm sorry for your wait.
Blame him.
Board of Health
Blame the chair.
quarterly report. Thank you, Richard.
Hey, heavy wears the crown. You want to bring the gavel? I'll bring the gavel, give it back to you next week.
I know, we're going to need that.
She's a mic. This side's better.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Select Board. Thank you, Mr. Dennehy. So you asked me here tonight to go over what the Milton Public Health Department does, and I'd like to showcase the Milton Public Health Department. So the question is, what do we do and why do we do it? Public health is about prevention, promotion, and protection of the Milton community. Our mission statement is to achieve the highest level of wellness for all Milton residents by adopting reasonable health regulations, by providing preventative health programming, and by preparing and planning for public health emergencies. Staff contacts. Myself, Caroline Kinsella, I'm the health director and the public health nurse. I work full-time. Laura Delakai is our new health agent. She's been on the job for 3 months, coming from Worcester State, and she's doing an excellent job. Susan Poirier is our public health nurse. She works 2 days a week, a seasoned public health nurse. And Jean Peterson is our senior clerk. She works 21.5 hours and has worked for the town for over 20 years. I have a wonderful staff there, a great team to work with. Staff contacts in the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. Laurie Stillman is our program director. Margaret Carrells is our project coordinator, and Stormy Leong is our project coordinator. I will speak a little bit more about the Substance Abuse Coalition later in our presentation, but I do want to recognize that Laurie, Margaret, and Stormy are doing a fabulous job with the coalition. They're a strong team. They are passionate about the coalition and working well together and moving our coalition forward. And they're on the Drug-Free Community Grant. All of their salaries are paid through the Drug-Free Community Grant. So our Board of Health is an elected Board of Health. Roxanne Musto is our chair. Mary Stenson is our secretary, and Laura Riches is our member. We also have a medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Capignoni, and he signs our standing orders, and he assists us with any questions we have medically. And I'd like to thank our board. They're wonderful and always promoting the health of Milton. This is just an overview of our public health, prevent, promote, and protect, starting with the sanitary code enforcement all the way down to the burial permits. So this is an overview of what we're doing in the health department. We are doing sanitary code enforcement, housing code enforcement. We have tenants calling about landlords, and we follow the codes, the sanitary codes, to ensure that they have a safe sanitary home that they're living in or apartment. So what we are doing is we're going out, tenants will call us, they have cockroaches, mice, or rats, even they have different problems that they're facing, and we go out and we make reports. We bring this to their landlord and have them work with us to make improvements to their living situation, and we try to work very hard with the landlords, and sometimes we end up bringing them to court if they do not follow through, but we try not to go down that avenue. So we work with the landlords to provide safe housing in Milton. We also get nuisance complaints. You can see a lot of trash here in these pictures, and we go out and we make reports about the nuisance complaints and have that cleaned up. And rodent complaints, we have a number of rodent complaints that come in every year in different parts of town, and we go out and we make reports on that and send rodent letters and try to clean up our town. Food safety inspections, Laura Delakai, our new health agent, does the food safety inspections. We're on a risk-based food safety inspections. We have 84 permitted establishments, which is a lot of work for Laura to go around, and we have 236 routine inspections. It's risk-based. We're now on the 2013 food code, so we could have a risk of 1 to a risk of 4. Risk of 1 would be a low risk, so it would be like a CVS, and we'd inspect that once a year. Risk 4 would be a high risk, and that's like a BID Milton or sushi. So it's 4 times we go out to inspect those establishments. So as I said, we follow the 2013 Federal Food Code. Sometimes we get complaint-driven inspections that we have to go to. Someone's complaining about a restaurant, we go out to that. We have temporary food events, catering events. We have almost 10 people in the farmers market that we open up the farmers market. We're seeing a lot of mobile food trucks. That's something new that we're seeing at the health department. So we have inspected a number of mobile food trucks this year. Tobacco control. Currently, we have 9 establishments in total that we have tobacco sold at. We worked with the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention and our board, and what we did this year is we put a cap on those establishments. So right now, only 9 establishments can sell tobacco in Milton. So that is through some regulations that the health department passed, and I'm glad that they passed that. Well, the health department also passed a couple of years ago a flavor ban. So there is no sale in the town of flavored products. They do sell spearmint and this menthol that they are still allowed to sell. We're working on that, but otherwise a flavor ban is in effect, and that is through the health department and the, as I said, the Milton Substance Abuse Prevention, working to hold that at 9 establishments in total for tobacco in the town. Recreational camp inspections. That can be a challenge in the summer to get all our camps open. We had 19 camps this year that we had to open in a short amount of time. Last year we only had 10 camps. We had a major camp close at Curry. Over 500 kids were going to that camp, MB Sports. And that closed, and we had about 9 other camps come in with tennis, soccer, football. So it was really a challenge for Sue, our public health nurse, to go out. We inspect all the immunizations of the counselors and the children. We inspect the medications of all the children to make sure that they are not expired. We're ensuring safety of the campers, checking queries and stories, and making sure they do those checks, and inspecting the physical facilities. So quite a challenge this year. Semi-public pool inspections. So we go out and open up the swimming pools. We have 8 swimming pools, and we have 1 pond, Cunningham Pond. We are following the pool code, and we are checking to make sure the certifications of the lifeguards, emergency equipment. The pools are testing in the pond 4 times every day to make sure that the chemicals are in balance, and they send reports weekly of bacteria levels. Here are the pond and the pool. Actually, the pond is not there, but our pools. Regulations of septic and storage systems. So Milton is about 3% septic. Otherwise, everyone else is on the sewer. We have a septic consultant, Paul Brogna, who he goes over about maybe 10 cases of septic repairs or new septic systems coming in. He looks over the plans. What the health department does is we do soil evaluations, we do perk test witnessing, we permit disposal work installers and septic haulers. And we also go out to inspect. So we inspect the drainage field. We have to do 2 inspections on new systems coming in, and the distribution boxes, open hole inspections. So the health department is going out and is involved with that. Animal inspector. A number of us are animal inspectors in the health department. We're tracking quarantine. So we have about 40 to 50 animals that are quarantined each year, dogs and cats, and a dog would be biting another dog or a human, and we're physically going out and quarantining that dog. So we have to actually bring quarantine to the house. It's either a 10-day quarantine, a 45-day, or a 4-month quarantine, so that we're always quarantining and then taking dogs or cats off quarantines. Stable inspections, so we go out and we do stable inspections. We have 10 stables in town, and you can see a picture of me there, and we're checking out the horses, making sure that they are healthy, and if they're not, looking healthy, or they don't have enough food, or they're in bad conditions, we contact the state, but we have had healthy horses, and we have gone on many inspections. And you see some chickens there. We maybe get calls about chickens, and if we do get a call about a chicken, then we go out and we do inspections for chickens also. Abandoned housing initiative. This is interesting. This started about 2 years ago. So the health department is working with the treasurer's office, Jim McAuliffe, and the attorney general's office to bring abandoned properties into compliance with the state sanitary code. 40 Thatcher Street is, actually, we brought that into compliance. We were notified by the attorney general. We went in, we did an inspection, we noted all the sanitary code violations. What they did is they appointed a receiver for that property. The receiver went in and fixed everything, and then actually 40 Thatcher Street was sold. So that's a good outcome. 137 Church Street, we're still working on it. We've already been into that property, noted a number of compliance problems, and they cleaned it all up. So the inside is all set, but then you can see what happened to the outside. And we're working with them. Actually, Attorney General's coming, the Attorney General's office, Tara, she's coming by tomorrow. And we're going out to 137 Church Street. We're sending another notice to the bank because they need to take care of the outside of the property. So we're working on that in the hopes of turning around and selling that property. So working with abandoned housing. Flu vaccine clinics. So we have 9 clinics that we do throughout the town. Volunteers help us, and the Milton school nurses help us. And we're going to have a big clinic here in the Council on Aging, and that's the date of that is coming out pretty soon. We haven't got the vaccine yet, but we're waiting on it. Surveillance of communicable infectious diseases. So the Massachusetts Virtual Epidemiological Network, MAVEN. We go into this MAVEN system, and we are doing surveillance and case management for diseases. So if any Milton resident gets a disease that's communicable, measles, mumps, chickenpox, we're notified by labs from Milton Hospital or any hospital they went to, and we have to follow up. We have to do a case management of that patient, talk to the doctor, a nurse, and talk to the family, make sure that no one else is getting that communicable disease or passing that on. So we've had over 200 communicable diseases that we had followed this past year. Also had suspect latent tuberculosis patients, there's about 17 of them. But I'm happy to report we have no active tuberculosis cases at this time. When I first started, we did have an active tuberculosis case, and at that time I had to go out and fill the pillboxes. It's more extensive, we have to do a lot of testing, and I had to do direct observation therapy. I had to watch the person take the medication. So no active tuberculosis cases at this time, but we had over 200 diseases that we're following. Blood pressure clinics, we go out and do blood pressure clinics at the Milton Library for residents, give vitamin B12 vaccines, and Sue, the public health nurse, she enters almost 1,000 immunizations into a system, that Massachusetts Immunization Information System. So all of those have to be recorded, and that takes a lot of time, because we're given almost 1,000 immunizations. I'm trying to pull this down a little bit.
Just a quick question, Caroline.
Yeah.
Any triple-E issues? I've been in Alaska, so I don't.
Yeah.
And I went to Alaska expecting all these bugs, and I was summer bug, but I kept getting all these these blasts about triple-E in Norfolk County. Have we had any cases in Milton?
That's coming up.
Okay. Let it go.
Health education, Lyme and tick education. So we go into all the 4th grade schools and we do health education, go out and play, but check every day for the kids, do a tick check with the kids. They love it, and it just makes them aware of ticks. There is a number of Lyme diseases and other diseases that are babesiosis, anaplasmosis that I'm seeing coming in, and they're getting those diseases in Milton. Sue writes a monthly health article. We provide a lot of resources for residents, and we have the substance abuse referral guide. Emergency preparedness. So we work with 8 other towns, like a collaborative in Region 4A and B, and we do a lot of emergency preparedness around natural disasters, emergencies, and plans for if there is an emergency and we have to set up a dispensing site. So we do have plans, and we're constantly going over those plans and preparing for emergencies and disasters. Milton Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. I am most proud of the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. I remember 5 years ago, Vicki McCarthy and I submitted a $1,500 technical grant to start the coalition, and it has been unbelievable. We have over 600 people on the listserv, made so much progress. I give kudos to Laurie Stillman. She's wonderful, and Margaret and Stormy. They have really taken this to new levels. We have instituted the Interface Referral Service. It's a program that Milton residents can access if they need to have referrals for mental health issues. That's one of the things that they did, but I encourage everybody to go on the website, www.milton-coalition.org, because there are so many resources there. It's been really phenomenal. Grants for substance abuse prevention and mental health. The Drug-Free Community Grant, we were awarded $125,000 for 5 years. We were awarded that in October 2018. I'm pleased to say that we just got awarded it for the second year. So that's really a big win. We also belong to the Regional Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition with Quincy, Braintree, and Weymouth. And we have monthly meetings, and we do a lot of work there. I thank Senator Walter Timmelty for an earmark of $30,000 for the coalition. Mark Susi's grants that come in, Chena grant, Blue Hills Community Health Alliance, a $25,000 behavioral health grant. And there's been so many donations. I can't speak to them all. BID Milton, the churches, Mike's 5K has been phenomenal, and private donations. Steve Keel, one of our steering committee members. And building partnerships, that's what we've been doing over the past 5 years. We have the drug take-back twice a year at Milton Police, collaboration with faith-based organizations, and Mike's 5K, which is coming up October 19th, and we'll be participating in that. Again, building partnerships with BID Milton Hospital, the Parent Speakers Series at the schools, the Students Against Destructive Decisions, and it's been phenomenal. It's really been great over the past couple of years. Partnership for a Healthy Milton. So the purpose of the Partnership for a Healthy Milton was to establish a nonprofit organization which promotes and protects the health and well-being of Milton residents and the town of Milton workforce. We started this partnership probably about 2.5 years ago, but we just this year got our 501c3. It's kind of like an arm of the health department, and that's what we're hoping it can be. We are going to have to do like an environmental scan or assessment of the community to find out what directions we're going to go in. But there are the board members there, and we've met a number of times, and we're just getting our legs underneath us. And this is a really exciting initiative for the town. Safe needle disposal. So we sell sharps containers, and we also dispose of sharps. So there's been an increase of people coming in to dispose of sharps. We also dispose of mercury, so you can bring in your mercury thermometers. Ice rink air monitoring. So ice edgers and Zambonis that are powered by gas or propane can give off dangerous fumes. So at Milton Academy, we do go out there and we make sure that they have proper records of their indoor air quality. Ullin Rink has an electronic Zamboni, so we don't have to monitor that, but we do have to monitor it at Milton Academy. Body art and microblading. This was very challenging for the health department. We didn't have any regulations in place, and we did work closely with Cambridge Health Department to develop protocols and procedures for body art and microblading. We did have one permit, Dr. Eyebrows, and she was there for about 2 years, and she's left. But we have someone coming up on the agenda to possibly start another microblading in town. So that was a challenge, but we worked with them and got it up and running. Burial permits. So anyone who passes away in Milton, at the hospital, at home, or at Seasons Hospice, we're processing burial permits through the health department. In FY14, we had about 200 burial permits processed, and as you'll see in FY19, we've had over 600 burial permits processed. That's because of Seasons Hospice and the number of deaths. So we've really increased our workload with the burial permits.
Are all 600 of these being buried in Milton Cemetery? They're
Excuse
not
me?
all being buried in
No.
Milton Cemetery?
No.
Just buried in the kitchen?
Yep. The HAN, it's the Health and Homeland Alert Network. So this alert network alerts me every week to arbovirus reports of mosquito testing, to see if they're positive for triple E. So every week I get reports. Every week I get maps of what we're looking like in Milton and what our risk level is. So right now in Milton, we're blue, and that means we are low. So low risk right now for triple E. So every week they update this. And also, if there's any kind of emergencies, they'll be updating me. Yep. So it's a great system. And those are the mosquito traps in Milton that are set up. Once a week, they bait those traps, collect the mosquitoes, and check for triple E and West Nile virus. Demolition plan review, I'll just touch on this lightly. We work with the building department to make sure that the site is pre-baited, that there's no asbestos, no underground storage tanks. There's about 17 of them this past year.
You mean pre-baited for rodents, right?
Yes. So this is a very busy slide, but what it's saying is this is the Milton Board of Health full-time equivalent comparisons to other towns. So there's 14 towns comparing to Milton, and if you'll see, if you go across the populations, you can see that everyone has a director. Some of them have deputy directors, agent inspectors, that's our health agent. You can see that most of them have health agents, and up to like 4.5 is the most. And it was surprising, but a lot of them do have social workers in the health department and community health workers that are embedded in their health department. Public health nurses, they have animal control inspectors or officers in the health department, and their clerks. What you'll see at the last line is that Brookline has 15.5 full-time equivalents. They have a lot of people that are working in their health department. The average is 6.0 if you add them all up. The least is 3. The most, as I said, was Brookline. But will you see Milton, we are the least at 3. What we do is we do a lot with the little that we have. We do a lot in our health department. So we are at the lowest end of how many full-time equivalents we have compared to other towns. And public health is a field that changes continually. Health departments, employees, we attend many workshops. So the codes are changing regularly, and there's different mandates that are coming down the pike. We do go to a lot of seminars. So it is very challenging. Every day is different, and I'm always learning every day because there's always something else that's coming in that we have to do some homework on and to figure it out. So I enjoy public health. I thank my staff. They're wonderful. My board, very supportive and keeping Milton healthy. And thank you so much for listening to the presentation and finding out what we're doing in the health department.
So, Ms. Kinsella, you have a huge, huge job, and we owe you a great debt of gratitude for everything that you're doing. It was tiring, almost just seeing everything you do, and that apparently, in comparison, you are understaffed in your department. So anyway, questions, comments from the board. Mr. Farren.
I had one comment and one question. I did work with Caroline's department a few weeks ago professionally, and you were very, very responsive, and it was wonderful. And as compared to other towns, I think you did a tremendous job. So kudos. And you mentioned something earlier with respect to Title V and septic. 3% of the town is on septic, 97% I'm guessing is town water and sewer. So the property that I had was in Scotts Woods. Okay. And is it fair to say that, I'm just curious, like the septic, it's all up in that area?
There's a lot of septic in that area.
Okay. Any other parts of town where there is septic?
It's in different parts of the
Like
town. We
little
have maps.
pockets here and there, yeah.
Yeah, so what we do is look at your address, and we look to see on the map, and then try to determine if you're on
Because
septic.
I never would have guessed that there was septic anywhere
Yeah.
in the town of Milton. So I was surprised to discover that.
Yes.
And then when I had to work with your department, they were great. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Ms. Conlon?
First of all, you are doing an awful lot, so thank you for all that you and the board and this health department staff do. I think the Substance Abuse Coalition's work has been really tremendous work and some of the most important work that the town does. So thank you, and to you and Laurie and everyone who works in that for all of your efforts. Not to put more on the Board of Health's plate, but I know our Airplane Noise Advisory Committee would like to engage a little more with the Board of Health and with us. So we're looking forward to trying to work with the Board of Health and with you, Caroline, and your staff going forward on possibly some initiatives there. So I think Andy Schmidt, our chair of our Airplane Committee, is going to be reaching out on some things that he'd like to follow up on with the Board of Health. And to the extent you can make time for that, we'd appreciate it, because you have a lot on your plate, and a lot of important things on your plate. Thank you.
Go home. Thank you. You already know how I feel.
Thank you. I know the board has been working, Andy had provided us with a number of studies.
Yes.
And we have been going through those studies, slow but sure, to try to, review them. The board is reviewing them to see if it matches anything that's going on in Milton. A lot of the studies are overseas, so it's been difficult, but we're still plugging along and
Thank
getting
you.
that done. Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Oh, Ms. Conlon.
Well, I wanted to add my thanks and to the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, and I understand Chief King has been a great partner in that regard too, so I wanted to say thank you.
He has.
And I guess my question is, there's so much need, but if you had a wish list, what would be at the top?
I really couldn't put anything at the top. There's so many different things that I could say. Yeah, we can talk about it.
Well,
I'll bring that to the board, but there are so many needs in the community. I can't even point to one exactly. As I said, my staff has been fantastic. Everyone's been fantastic. The coalition, core stakeholders. It's been really, really awry these past couple of years, and just growing the coalition. And I thank everyone for all their help along the way, because that's what it is. It's the people all behind you, kind of helping you up. Yeah, it's been great.
Well, thank you. This is a wonderful presentation and really educational. I hope that a lot of people were watching tonight.
Yeah, it's amazing. I didn't know how much the health department really does. Yeah, I didn't even know
You're
there
too
was a
busy
health
doing
department.
it.
Yeah, until I'm the director. Yeah, so it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for
Mr.
listening.
Chair,
Thank
if I
you,
might-
Caroline. Oh, Mr. Denny.
So I think it was a great idea that you invited this group and other elected boards to come and present. I think this was a very encompassing look at what they do. It's enlightening to people. I'm going to ask Caroline's permission to publish this presentation. I want to thank our board members who sat through the night here.
And we apologize for that.
There is a lot of stuff that's done that people just don't understand. I know there was some pushback when the Cunningham Pond wasn't opened on time, but we understand now why that was and the steps that are taken to make sure that everyone stays healthy in our town. So thank you for having them in, and thank you, Caroline, and board members, Richards and Stenson, for coming in and telling us everything that's done. It's truly encompassing. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Caroline.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 9, is Bill Ritchie. Bill, I do have a resident on an issue. Do you mind if we take you out of order and do our Manning temporary park first? Okay, thank you, Bill, I appreciate it. I'm sorry to keep you so late. So let's without objection, move to item 10, which is a discussion regarding the Manning Park temporary recreation plan. I think we have Mr. Roach. I think Chief King is here. This is a follow-up of the discussion we had 2 weeks ago, and there were 3 requests. You can have a seat, Sean. There were 3 requests at that time, and one was to review the legal issues and I can address that because town council has, relayed some of the answers on that to Mr. Dennehy and myself today. We don't have anything written on that, and they couldn't show up, but I can tell you what they have told us. And then the second request was to get some feedback from Chief King, who's here, and then the third request was to have kind of a narrative from Mr. Roach on what his plan was, and I think he provided us with a document laying out the phases. So what I'd like to do, I think it probably makes sense just for me to address quickly the legal requirements, and then maybe have Chief King, if it makes sense, address any public safety concerns, and then Sean, you can walk us through the narrative. Does that make sense? Does that work?
Can you read it for me? I'm really tired.
What's that?
Can you read the narrative for me? I'm really tired.
You don't have to, you can just hit the highlights, and I apologize, it's,
All right. No,
it was a tough night for this.
Wait, I have to say happy birthday, Marilyn.
Oh, yes, that's right,
My
for your
15-year-old
daughter, yep. And
All
we'll
right.
try to
How
get
about
you, out of here as quickly as possible. So the questions for town council were, what's our authority here and what's our decision point here? This land is not owned by the town, it is owned by the Commonwealth, and we use the land under an airspace license agreement that was entered into back in 1993. And we are currently amending that for another purpose, but the operative sections of that are that the town is authorized, the proposed use was to create a town common for pedestrian use, thereby unifying the east and west portions of East Milton Square over the Southeast Expressway. That's Section 5 of the agreement, and Section 3 of the agreement provides that the town shall not use the premises for any purpose that is not authorized by this agreement without prior written consent of now it's the Mass Department of Transportation. So, town council's view was that the better course here was to contact Mass Department of Transportation and get their consent that this use was in line with Section 5, which are the uses that are allowed under that. And so that would be, if this board wants to do it, that would be up to the town government to reach out to Mass DOT and to confirm that this use is not inconsistent with this agreement with the Commonwealth. And so town council thought it was appropriate, and we can decide if we agree. Town council's view was that they thought that this use was consistent with that of a community park, but we obviously should run that, go to Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Second point, on the legal side, town council did think it was the better course, and this board can decide, to enter into an indemnification agreement with the person or entity that provides these things for the square, so that the person or entity that provides these things would say that they have insurance, would list both the town and the Commonwealth, and we'll get this all to you, Sean, in writing. You don't have to, yeah, you don't have, so you'd be insured, or if you have a nonprofit, the nonprofit would be insured.
Yep.
And that the town and the Commonwealth, because the Commonwealth owns the property, would be listed as additional insureds, and that you would agree, you or the entity that provides these things would agree to indemnify the town and the Commonwealth if there were any liability that would attach to, or that would result from having these things there. And if this board agrees, we could get that kind of agreement in short order. We could get that kind of agreement drafted.
Would that include items like someone tripping over all the broken pavers and everything? Or?
Well, that remains to be worked out, but I think it would be, anything that results from these.
I added personally?
Yeah, anything that results from what you put in there. I think, and again, this is up to the board to decide, but this was town council's advice.
Right.
Anything that you put in there, if the town ends up getting sued because of that, then, we would look to you and say, well, wait a minute, you were the one who was doing this, not us. So,
Right.
So that's the legal side of things, and I don't.
Adams Street, not Milton's too?
I'm sorry?
Adams Street, it's us.
Adams Street, this is over the highway, the over the
Okay,
highway
but
porch.
Adams Street is Milton's, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, that's right, isn't it, Richard? I
So
believe
we
it.
don't need permission for Adams Street, correct?
You need permission from the town.
From the, no, I'm
From
saying
the town.
Mass DOT.
Oh, Mass DOT, I think
Okay.
that's correct, I think that's correct. All right, so that's the legal side of, a legal update, if you will. Does it make sense to have the chief address some of the public safety items that were asked about?
Hi.
Welcome, Chief King.
Thank you. I learned about this after, I think, your prior meeting when it was proposed, but Mike reached out to me the next day, he sent me the PowerPoint, I believe, that you had reviewed. And then Mike, went down the park and we met Sean and kind of did a walkthrough, and Sean went over it. So, I identified 4 things, but I cautioned that, it's hard for me to comment without knowing exactly which aspects, looking at this list, like, would be approved or ultimately, go into place, because that would affect attendance and issues. But I identified 4 issues that, issues I identified, but I'll just bullet point them and I can elaborate as much as you need. Noise, anytime there's a gathering spot, noise is an issue. I don't see that as a safety concern, but it's an issue the police department deals with. My opinion, it doesn't directly abut any residential area. I don't see noise being a major issue. Obviously, there's other issues. If it was a concert at night, it's different than kids playing ping pong during the day. So, could there be a noise issue, and could that be controlled by some mitigation, speaker locations, time restrictions, things like that? Things to consider, probably not a safety issue, but just things I experienced that people call the police about. I think, some people, word of mouth, I've heard express a concern about, teenagers and, vandalism or ruckus behavior. I think, you question that with any gathering spot of youth, but, again, not a major concern of mine. I think that potential is at Andrews Park or Cunningham Park or any other park or gathering spot. So I don't see this as any different of a risk. Anytime you have some type of equipment unattended, unsupervised, I think you risk some theft of it or vandalism to it. But otherwise, I feel that's a pretty small area. It's a pretty public area. It's got a lot of viewing angles, so in some ways I think it polices itself. So that was a second issue. The 2 probably more legitimate issues, pedestrian crossings. Both sides of that park area are, heavily traveled throughout the day, even the night. They're dangerous roads. That being said, there are signalized crosswalks, and currently, 100 kids could go there tomorrow, utilize a crosswalk and go into that park and play. So I don't think this is an enhanced risk. Again, I'm not trying to avoid a direct commitment, but it really depends on what's approved. If it was a concert, at night, or a movie, something where it's a timed event where a large number of people would come at a set time and leave at a set time, that's different than people trickling in and out throughout the day. So if it was a Disney movie geared towards young kids on a Friday night, and they're all going to leave in the dark at a certain time, that's where you risk people being impatient, not waiting for the crosswalk. Would you need, like, an auxiliary police officer like we do at gazebo concerts and stuff like that? We'd have to consider that. But if it's kids going over using, ping pong or cornhole and things like that throughout the day, I feel like they could do that right now. So it's no different. And I guess the mini Fenway jumped out at me as a traffic concern. I mentioned that to Sean when we met. I didn't really grasp the whole dimensions. I grasped it better when we walked through with Michael than on the PowerPoint. But, it's pretty small. I think my immediate concern would be a ball going and hitting either a pedestrian or a car, and as a result of maybe somebody's reaction to that, causing a pedestrian or a vehicle accident. So, I'd be concerned about that. Again, could that be mitigated with some type of netting if it was ultimately approved? Probably could be. And one other traffic concern is, if you were going to have large gatherings there, there may want to be some consideration to reinforcing the berms. And the only reason I say that is not so much Adams Street westbound at Granite, but that's the only point where somebody could actually like drive a vehicle straight through. But the other direction, Adams Street eastbound at Bryant Ave, we have had a fair amount of cars hit that berm accidentally, or trucks, people looking down at GPSs, not paying attention, and obviously they're taking a sharp right. So if there was a movie screen set up right behind that with a ton of children sitting on the road, I think a boulder or something might be a wise and inexpensive investment rather than just a dirt berm. So those were thoughts I had on the walkthrough, but again, nothing that really was a major concern to me. But it really would depend on what the bullet point of things approved is. It kind of would tweak this comment.
Thank you, Chief. So let me just add, Town Council did advise that in terms of the decision point, it is for this board to decide and to approve or not approve this in whatever form it sees. So the Town Council felt pretty positive that this board should make a decision on this. So with that, maybe before, go ahead, Sean.
The new project, though, does address, the federal project does address a lot of those issues with the sidewalks and the stoplights.
Yes. That's right.
The gate, the fence
The
between
Bryant
the
Ave,
posts
there's a
around
lot
it.
of pluses in the new project and the timing of it
Yep.
that will help everyone's concerns.
Yeah. And so, if it makes sense, maybe if there's any questions or comments on the legal or the public safety side, and then maybe we can go to Sean's, or someone can read this, but to Sean's update. Is there any questions or comments at this point?
So
Mr. Wells.
on the legal, perhaps we just forward this to Mark Gravelisi, who's our representative right now with, because I believe he's already, since he communicated with Sean, I think he'd be the best one for us to run this by MassDOT right now.
Right.
And the reality of this is, and I walked it today and walked it last night after I got home yesterday. I agree with the chief. It's probably the passive things that are the safest. I think anything with a ball or a frisbee or throwing, you just, even though it's going to be much safer with all signalization, the way it's going to be designed. It'll have a set state, that has a pavilion area in the corner of it, where if you have music events or any type of public speaking event, you'll be able to have that there. Those things I think are very good. Look, it's been dead for 25 years. If we can bring it to life somehow, I think it's incumbent of us to at least try. I mean, we've got money coming forward. We're going to have a whole new design and all these public safety improvements. And Mr. Roach, to his credit, has put a lot of time in a very short period here. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Other questions, comments? Mr. Roach.
So you want me to run down?
Well, if you want, so I think the path
Yeah.
is whether the board wants to vote to approve this for a period of time or for a test. One option is for the board to approve your plan, right? Another option is the board to approve the concept and have and delegate Mr. Dennehy to oversee the specific items within the project, right? It seems to me we could approve it subject to the consent of Mass Department of Transportation and subject to an agreement on indemnification. I am mindful, however, that there are already things there.
Yeah, that's a good, how did you already vote on this while I was away?
No.
Oh, this just happened?
No,
Yeah.
Okay.
it just happened. So it's happening. So it's happening. So it seems to me we need to act on it as quickly as possible. Because the truth is,
Right.
until we have an insurance and indemnification, there is risk.
There is, yeah.
It might be minimal,
It is
but there is
reality,
risk. But there is risk to the town, and that's what our charge is. So, having said that, I mean, personally, I hesitate to say, well, take it all out of there, and we'll, maybe put it back in 2 weeks when we get all the Ts crossed and the Is dotted. That's my personal view. But so maybe you can, kind of give the board an update, and then there can be questions and comments. Thank you, Chief.
I'll remain.
Okay.
Thank you.
An update on,
what's there, what the plan is. I
So-
mean, we all have the plan, and maybe it'll just be questions from the members on the plan that you provided.
So I did do a few ping pong table. I just wanted to see in between the times we met, so we could actually talk about all the positive things that happened down there in the last 2 weeks. And I know it probably wasn't the right thing to do, and I wasn't trying to bother you all by doing that, but I was just trying to get some life going down there, so we can talk about it right now. And I've seen dozens of people down there really enjoying themselves. I've met 20 people or so that I never would have met before if I didn't do this thing, just by going down there and talking to them. So to me, it's already starting to get what I think needs to be down there, and there's kids playing down there, and I met 2 7th graders. I said, what do you think of the park, guys? You know, I was down there like trying to clean up some stuff, and I love these 2 kids. They're like, what should we add to it? So they start going on like big checkers, because a lot of kids don't know how to play chess, and like giving me all these pointers, and they're like, thanks, mister, this is great. But they go, one thing you need though is get like a snack thing down here, sell some food so you can make some money so you can pay for more stuff at the park. And I'm like, I love you guys. And then we can get jobs here, we can work for you. So like, this is what we're trying to go for. Like, I know I probably jumped the gun doing that. I wasn't trying to make any waves. I was just trying to get some kind of like mystery marketing. Tony mentioned in marketing, get the town talking about it. And I don't know, I don't go on Facebook, but I guess it sounded pretty positive on Facebook. It started off negative and then seemed to turn positive. I don't really, my wife kind of updates me on Facebook. I don't really read it, but as far as moving forward, I agree we have to do the insurance, like get everything all documented properly. I can take everything away if you're comfortable.
Sean, do you think, just on the legal
It's
side?
not a lot of big stuff.
I think everything's almost everything's on Adams Street, either on Adams Street or on the Adams Street sidewalk.
Right, right.
There's not really much on the park property right now. I think maybe just the checker thing was the only thing.
Right.
The tables, the picnic tables, all of that are on
Yeah.
town property right now.
I kind of thought it was hard to explain on a piece of paper, and sometimes you need to visualize it a little bit, just to see the activity down there, like people were grabbing coffee and their kids were running around, people were meeting at the table, and that was just one table.
Right.
I think it's just easier to see things sometimes than explain it on a piece of paper, like, especially you guys haven't had a lot of time to even look at this. So I was just trying to give you a mock-up,
Yep.
as
Ms.
they do in construction.
Ms. Collins. Oh, Ms. Collins.
Sorry, could I just give a
Oh,
quick
Mr. Denny,
update
yeah,
from
please.
Town Hall?
Yeah, please.
So, full disclosure, my 11-year-old spent the holiday Monday down there with some of his friends and loved it. We have received some negative feedback about it. A lot of people have the impression that it's becoming kind of like a yard sale looking place. That's the con type stuff, and a lot of people are worried about the safety of children coming through, and I think the chief addressed that there are people going through that park every day anyhow. But for the most part, it was, if we received 20 calls, emails, or taps on the front desk, it was, 75% positive, 25% negative. And, people were divided, but they made their points relatively clear. So it is attracting comment. I think that's the point I'm trying to say. It is gaining traction one way or the other.
Ms. Collins?
Well, I think like you, I'm loath at this point to have things taken out. I do want to note that I hope that this isn't the way we test things out in the future, where things just show up and it's sort of almost like a fait accompli. But I don't think anything that is there now is dangerous.
It's all
So
passive.
it's right. It's passive. It's fun stuff that's safe. So I wouldn't want to see you take it out. I know that it was expensive, and I do understand your point also about experience is very different than a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But I think we need to get these legal aspects straightened out as soon as possible before anything else is added. And I do think it's important to have the town administrator, or I'm not even sure, along with Chief King, or maybe it makes sense to have Parks involved, even though Parks isn't, you know, they don't own it, but perhaps they're good consultants for us, on what really is appropriate there, because wiffle ball league sounds really great, but perhaps not in that space. Maybe we couldn't possibly put enough netting up to keep balls and things, or children from running after balls. I did that myself as a kid. Just responding to some of the options.
It doesn't have to be all of these things, it's,
Right,
it's like
but
one of
which
the things it
things?
could be. I
Right.
mean, it's still a
And-
discussion.
Right, and so
I could have wrote 5 more pages of ideas in my head, but I stopped, because I figured we wouldn't.
Well, and they're wonderful ideas. But just as you were talking about possible mechanisms for how we consider adding things, and if we can go forward.
Yeah, it's really how to regulate it, and who's, you know, is there some kind of aesthetic overview, right? You know, if someone doesn't like the lawn chairs, are the lawn chairs the right thing? You know, and who's going to decide that?
The
Certainly
lawn
not.
chair started it, you know.
Certainly not me.
The
you
lawn
know.
chair started it.
I know, you know, certainly not me. You know, or I don't know if this, I would, my view would be we would delegate that to, you know, maybe to the town administrator, someone else to work with Mr. Roach on kind of the aesthetic quality, you know? Is it right to have the cars in there? Is it, you know? So anyway, so that's, those are, I think those are, in my view, that's something that we'd have to have some kind of, someone for you to work with, some kind of oversight with, in terms of what you put in there. Other comments, questions?
I just want to say
Mr.
thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Mr.
I have
Fenton?
one comment. So Sean, have you had the chance to speak to John Cronin?
No, but, I'm
He
surprised.
emailed you, he supports it.
He did?
He supports it.
He sent the board a very thorough email, and I would urge you to reach out to him. He's a wonderful, you know, resource,
I've
former town
kind of been
administrator.
surprised that I've been waiting, because I heard he's like, first I wanted to thank him for being the, you know, caretaker of the park, Mr. Manning, all these years. I guess he was married to his sister. And I was waiting to have to speak to him about it, because everyone, you know, this is Mr. Cronin's thing. But I really.
I can make an
haven't.
introduction via text.
Yeah, sure, I'd love to
Yeah.
meet him.
I think
I
it would.
thought I would by now after all this.
I think it would help sort of hang some meat on the bone, if you will, and
Okay.
really, and give it some shape. It's a wonderful idea.
Okay.
It needs more shape. Like, it's
Yeah.
a wonderful vision, and I think we're all working towards that vision. We just got to give it a more defined shape, if you will. That's how I see it, from my perspective.
I did speak to Walter Timmelty, and he filled me in on Mr. Cronin too, and Mr. Manning, he did work for Mr. Manning, so we talked about the Army Jeep and how Mr. Manning was a Marine, and he would probably love that, and how Mr. Manning started Babe Ruth, he would love the football field.
The other,
So I should talk to Mr. Timmelty for like a good half hour on the phone, see what he thought about it.
2 other comments, just recommendations that I would make. First of all, thank you for putting together that narrative. I
Did
think
it
the
help?
narrative as a standalone, wonderful. The visual aid as a standalone, wonderful. You put the 2 together, I think it does a great job, a better job of communicating the message. The one thing that jumped out at me, let me find it again now. On page 1, chickens. So, I need an explanation on the chickens.
I'm proud of you, man.
Huh?
I'm proud of you. I'm checking if you're reading it.
I saw the chickens. I figured you were just going to sell chicken.
I had to give you one thing to say.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So if that's
how this
truly
works,
a joke,
right?
kudos to you.
I was like, bonfires and chickens are out,
Okay,
right? The message
yeah.
is
Well, I
good?
saw that at the end, so I was getting to that. But the other thing, no, constructive criticism, don't limit yourself to teens. You know,
Yeah, it's kinda
this-
working out for
Everybody
that.
enjoys this stuff.
Yep.
It's not just teenage kids, it's not
It's been
adolescents, everybody
everyone.
does.
It's been everyone so far.
So don't limit yourself to that, and I think it's a wonderful start. I support it. I'd like to just continue to give it some shape.
Cool. So like the lawn chairs are like, they're vintage. I know they look like a yard sale on their own.
I don't think we need to
Okay.
talk about the
All right.
lawn chairs. I think we have other things we can, I mean,
Okay.
you can if you want, but
The
you don't need to,
chickens,
you don't need to
we're
talk
gonna-
about it for me. Any other comments, questions? Ms.
Yeah, I have
Conlon?
a few. So I've heard a lot of positive feedback, including
Okay.
getting off the train tonight. I ran into family friend who told me her grandchildren were over there and she really liked it, and some other people she was with also spoke highly of it. But at this, so we've had a lot of positive feedback. We've also had, as the town administrator said, the yard sale complaint, that it looks a little, it's almost distracting to drivers driving through there because they're not used to seeing a lot of equipment there, and they're seeing it and it looks a little unkempt. So I do think the aesthetics is going to be important going forward. I guess I have a few questions for you. Sean, you mentioned here on the first page, so, and I'm assuming we're only talking about phase one, because phase two is a lot more ambitious, and that would probably have to come down the road after the project is done.
We'll be doing that along with.
All right, so just regarding phase one, although I have to tell you, the Star Wars Festival in phase two really appealed to me.
Yeah.
But staying on phase one.
You want to elaborate?
A big
That's
fan
a
of the
little
original.
insight that
big
we-
fan
none
of the
of us-
original trilogy, not necessarily all the other ones. It says a group of friends could buy tickets to reserve the cars for movie night, and we'd sell advertisements for the vehicles to local businesses.
Yeah.
And you're talking about forming an LLC to, I think you have that on the second page. I did see a reference to forming an LLC, and you even have some auxiliary items like lighting, wireless camera system, additional seating, public restrooms, and obviously this
Possibly,
is
if
down the
it's that
road
much,
and
you know, we don't want 'em
not
going to-
immediate. So I guess in addition to the legal comments about approvals and indemnification insurance, I mean, I'm wondering whether we need to consider, would there be some, if we can, are we talking about granting a license to an entity to operate this, and then they're selling tickets to movies kind of to generate revenue for some of these items, or what is going to be the relationship, I think, between the town and the LLC is an important question, and I just was wondering, when you're talking about jobs for teens, selling tickets, how you're envisioning that working?
There is a discussion with you people too, like how we should do that. I haven't nailed that down yet. Is it a nonprofit? Is it?
Okay.
The LLC would, I knew you were gonna come with insurance. I have to protect my core business from something happening there
Right.
too, so I need to do that no matter what. See, I picture it being big enough where kids are working down there. That's also a way to keep kids out of the woods too, like
Seasonally.
working on the ice cream
Seasonally,
truck,
yeah.
working, you know. I can't be down there watching it all the time. I go there in the morning, I go there on the way home from work, but if it's big enough and good enough, you could hire 2 or 3 people. Maybe even an old timer to help people cross the street, if it's good enough, you know, just take, you know, some of that stuff out of the way. But in order to do that, it can't be just a couple of picnic tables and an ice cream truck. Like, it has to be something decent to,
So maybe
you know,
that's
to
a
bring it to a
question
level of
for-
having
to explore
having
further with town
employees.
council.
For it to be a draw, of course, no, 100%.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can't be the way it
100%.
is now, because it's not enough to hire someone.
Right.
It's somewhere in between, right? Like, I wanted to bring it to the next level where there's kids working there, like.
But that's more long-term, that's not the, I mean,
Yeah.
the initial phase we're
Well, like,
talking about is.
The Fenway cooking stuff, like teens can cook the sausages and the hot
Right,
dogs.
I get it, but we're not, that's not gonna happen next month.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
The food?
No, the Fenway and the.
Oh, Fenway's out, but the
sausages.
cooking for the Fenway will be there, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the, yeah, I mean, I think what town council has said at this point is that we should approve the items. We should approve the concept,
Okay.
right?
And
And
then
then
just
we
work
can
with Mike.
delegate to Mr. Dennehy or somebody else the specifics, right? We didn't dig into the details, and maybe we need to have town council, you know, attend one of our meetings and answer questions. We didn't dig into the details about any financial relationship or, you know, if I mean, look, if Sean's making money off this, then someone else is gonna wanna do it too, right? So then you need to think about that, Mr. Wells.
So 2 points, so just short-term and long-term. Short-term to you, long-term to Katie.
Yeah.
Short-term, I like the language, now I've forgotten it because you said it. You.
Approve it subject to.
Yeah, I like that. I think,
Subject
and
to.
that'd be a good idea for us tonight. Long-term, going back to the same, having discussed with Howard Stein Hudson as far as the Mass dot approval. We have Rich Houghton? Rich
From Harrison?
from Havison. Havison did the entire Rose County, each section has these.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
sure.
gonna be able to give us insight on how we could do this.
Yep.
So I think that's long-term to Katie's, because I
Yep.
agree, it's real, if it becomes real and it becomes a business, you know, we have to give it some, figure a way to codify it, do it. But to the short-term, what you said, I'd be in favor of a motion using the language you described tonight.
Yeah, and look, I think there's two, I mean, my view, and certainly not determinative, I think there's two ways to go. Either we do nothing, and because there is some risk there, we do nothing until we have the insurance in place, and we
Okay.
just let it go. Or we take the affirmative step to approve it, subject to the consent of DOT and subject to an indemnification agreement between the town and the entity that provides these items. So I think those are the two ways to go here, either to do nothing or to, to your point, Richard, approve it subject to.
I could do nothing if I had an idea how long the timeline would be before we get like this.
Well, we can get the agreement lined up, and it's up to Sean on insurance, but we can have the agreement ready to go, I think Mike, town council said by next week. I mean,
Yes.
we can have that ready,
big
we can have the indemnification agreement ready next week, and we have a meeting next Wednesday.
Just not as long as the animal shelter thing.
You're figuring out what goes on here, huh? Snail's pace, government, you're in the fast lane. You wouldn't believe, I can't believe how fast you're moving.
So I have another question.
Ms.
Mr.
Conlon.
Provost. So, and then, Sean, on page 3, so you're asking
Okay.
for a year for the, the trial period, I get the test period.
Yeah.
Which, first I want to know how that fits in with the project
Good point.
schedule. But secondly, I think a year is long. I mean, I'm more than, well, I want to do more than the 48 hours we had talked about at the last meeting, but a year I think is too long, and I don't think it's going to mesh with the project schedule. So, maybe a season, maybe a period of a couple of months, for maybe the fall.
What if we met every 3 months to review and say stop or go?
Yeah, well, first, do we have, what is maybe
Yeah.
the town administrator has the best sense of the project timeline?
There's a letter you sent to us
So, it was-
yesterday.
yeah, it was advertised, it's out for advertisement.
Advertised.
I'm thinking April. I
Spring.
think what we need to be concerned with is need to make sure that the chamber has their time allotted for the Halloween stroll, which is an annual event. And then the tree lighting stuff, but I don't think what Mr. Roach is trying to do is gonna interrupt anything but the stroll and the tree lighting,
He may
from
be
a
able to help on
construction
both of
perspective.
those.
Yeah.
He may
Yeah.
be able to be an integral part of both.
But we just need to
Yeah,
be aware of those two events that have been done annually on the deck.
Okay, and then so if the project starts in the spring, then we're talking really, all of this is gonna have to be removed, right? Because we're
Yeah.
gonna have a lot of construction work going on there. So
Yeah.
then we're gonna have a gap in period of time.
Of a year.
Is that what
at
everybody
least-
understands?
Of at least a year, at least a year.
With a lot of equipment parked there as well.
Right, yeah.
The good news is when it's done, brand new house.
So in my optimistic view, I'm hoping I know the guy who wins the project, just from being in construction, and we can maybe like work together on it. That's just what I'm hoping. There's a good chance I might know the person, or the people, or the subs on it, and we can kind of work together on the whole thing. So I'm kind of waiting to see who wins that bid. So as soon as you know, let me know.
So, I mean, that idea of maybe reviewing in 3 months sounds good. I thought the chair's suggestion that maybe we delegate some of this to the town administrator, which I'd support, but I'd like to bring it back at a public meeting, because I think we're gonna be hearing from people, pro or con.
Right.
So I think if we ask the town administrator to try to work out some of these details and then bring it to a meeting where people have an opportunity to hear what's going on, can weigh in a little bit, so that even though if we approve it in concept, with the town administrator work out some of the specifics, then if it comes back to a meeting, there's an update and a chance for us to act on it at that point, too.
So how about this? So if we approve it tonight, subject to consent of the Department of Transportation and an indemnification agreement, we could follow up on those things in the next week. Hopefully, we'll have the insurance and the indemnification in place. We can approve those next week, best case, right? And then maybe we have a public hearing, sometime in October, after there's been some use, and we get people to, we get some public feedback that way. Does that, and we approve it, we'll approve it, we could approve
Like a
it.
test fit, and then everyone,
Yeah, we could approve it for a
That
period of time.
everyone complains?
Yeah, exactly. We could approve it for September, October,
Yeah.
November, say, and, for example, and then we could have a public meeting, sometime in October to get feedback.
But these 2 months are gonna be critical, because these are the last two really
yeah.
Right.
good quality months of the year that you're gonna have to
Right.
actually have.
This winter could be very slow anyways. I don't really have, if the ice thing doesn't work out, I don't have a ton of ideas for winter, maybe.
I'm still a little unclear, though, frankly, Mike, on what it is we're being asked to approve. And I appreciate the narrative as it was put together, and I'm all for a little humor and tongue-in-cheek, but if you're
Yeah.
asking us to approve something and you include chickens and bonfires,
Well-
I can't lend my approval to that, John.
So let's,
Right.
let's,
You know, it's, to me, it's still too vague.
Well, phase one, you're approving phase one.
I'm approving phase one.
Yeah.
Well-
Phase two is, that was like what it could be and what, and honestly, the chicken thing, it was a joke. I raised chickens, I had chickens. But the Collycott School hatches chickens. Like, what if this didn't have to all give them all away? They could actually have the chickens down there and raise the chickens too.
So Tony, I think what you would be asked to approve, if there's a motion, the motion could be that we are approving the use of that space for the amenities laid out in phase one of this, subject to working with the town administrator and the approval of the town administrator for these specific items.
I'll make that motion using his
And
language.
and then subject to
Yep,
the
all that,
approval,
all
the
of it.
consent of the Department of Transportation
all of it.
and an indemnification agreement.
Indemnification, yeah.
Indemnification agreement and insurance
Roach.
coverage with Mr. Roach's entity, I hope, at that point. So that, I think, Tony, might be the specifics. And maybe you have a better idea, you know, it's just a thought.
Okay, so that's a start, certainly.
And if something's not working, reach out, I'll change it. I'm not saying like, this is it.
No,
It's
for-
like-
I-
it's like
yes.
The park and the people are gonna tell us what they want too, you know, it's not just me saying this is
Yeah.
it, but it's a start.
One thing to add to that awkward motion would be for the period of, September, October, November. That would be, and now I have no idea what the motion says, Jen, but.
Maybe Jennifer.
But I can.
Make it simple.
Second.
I've got stuff to vote with.
You have to watch the tape, John, to get that motion.
Hey, what I tell you about a
few-
gavel, this is even better.
Subject
This
to-
is even better.
Subject to this.
I'd like to keep these like in perpetuity. Can we do
I
that
know,
forever?
right?
Huh? Just.
Yeah, I know, this
yay,
would be, yeah.
nay, huh?
So can I just ask for clarification?
Yeah.
Is the chair's motion, I mean, so for phase one, we have 16-foot movie screen, just as one example. I want to make sure that Mr. Dennehy's going to be able to sit down with Sean and say, Sean, this is going to work, this is not going to work.
Nothing will be put there.
Exactly.
Without Mr. Dennehy saying yes.
So just for point of comp, these are reasonable things like, our camps run, the parks department runs, police their camp runs, you know, the police department said movies on the front lawn of the police station. I mean, those are, I think all the phase one stuff is reasonable. My only concern is I just don't want to see any of those cars get damaged. That's my only concern. That's
Yeah, I'm starting to
the
feel
most-
that too.
That's, to me, that's the most
I'm
valuable.
underestimated that
Like
pack.
that pickup truck, I can see if you fall, it's getting a lot of
What a pack
attention.
boys can do.
Yep.
You might be underestimating that.
Yeah, Ms.
My
Conlon.
concern about the 16-foot movie screen, and that's why I want the town administrator to be able to say yay or nay on that, is, you know, it's one thing to do it on the police
Right, I get it, I get
grounds
it.
on Highland Street, but it's another thing in the middle of a busy intersection where you get cars, you
Yeah.
know, presumably
People getting
cars from the
distracted.
highway could see it, but probably more specifically, Adams Street, Bryan.
I agree.
All of those streets, people coming into the square, all of a sudden, there's a big movie up on the screen. That could be distracting for drivers. So that's what I'd want the TA
Could
to
be.
have some discretion over.
The other thing too, and to follow up on Katie's point, in those things, any of the nighttime events, anything like with a movie or music, you're gonna have to make sure the chief's aware so that he can be proactive with some director patrols, just to have that presence there, because that is just often enough to just deter anything from happening, just,
I am old enough to remember the Neponset Drive-In
absolutely,
and the cars that would pull over on the Southeast Expressway to watch a movie.
for free,
I
for
saw
free,
Correct.
Star Wars there, Katie,
for free.
my PJs.
All right.
So I made that motion.
So here's the motion. Here's the motion.
Okay.
The motion would be, I move subject to consent of the Department of Transportation and indemnification agreement with the entity to provide these amenities, approval of the locating of certain amenities in the Manning Park with the approval, and now I'm getting a little off, but with the consent of the town administrator for a period extending from September through November 2019. Does that cover it?
It's good for me.
It's on the fly.
Sounds good.
Is
Need
this
a
okay with
second.
you?
Yeah, just don't ask me to pick the right lawn chairs.
I'm
Don't
sure
you
that-
pick the movies either.
Does that make sense? All right, so I've made the motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait.
Oh,
Oh, my God, yes.
Do it. Where's the
Yes.
times?
Yes.
Even the time's left.
She left. Fred doesn't bring a camera.
Can I get one? Hold on.
Oh, my God.
My daughter's birthday present here.
Happy birthday.
What time are we going home tonight?
Thanks, guys.
Late.
That's great.
Very late.
all right.
It took me 4 hours to decide to put yes on black or red.
Oh.
You know, it's ready.
All right, thank you, Sean.
You're good to go.
We need to move along.
Okay.
Because we had a
Thank you.
long night.
Thanks for your
but-
time, guys,
but,
and thanks for pushing it through and rushing.
All right, but we got some work to do between now and next week.
We definitely do. Now we gotta
And-
do the real stuff, right?
And let's not put anything out there unless Mike says it's okay
Okay.
going forward, okay?
Which guy's Mike?
Michael.
Oh, that, yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the rest of the
No,
night.
we
Thanks,
didn't.
Sean.
Thank
all
you.
right. Mr. Ritchie, I apologize.
Sure you do.
Item 9,
I hope he files a grievance.
conference with Mr. Ritchie regarding Kidder Library and the Milton Arts Center repairs.
So basically, I'll just pretty much invite you here just to really talk about
Thanks.
moving forward with the kiddo
Sorry.
in the.
Go ahead, Bill.
So, yeah, I mean, I think what happened is that, there was some work, obviously the library board passed on the building out to the select board, and then just trying to go forward, like, what, I gave a proposal to the library about 9 months ago, potentially about $75,000 worth of work. But we did not want to spend that kind of money, not knowing what's really gonna happen with the building. Was it gonna be sold?
tenant, right,
Yeah,
with
with
the
the tenant, so, but there is some immediate work that has to be done, and there was the lease agreement that I think the leasees, spend roughly about $5,000 a year, and then anything above and beyond that, I'd kind of look at and say, is it really a town job, or, so the people residents? But I identified some things, like the front columns need to be done, a back roof needs to be done, some downspouts need to be done, and some patching, and really not anything substantial, so, a lot of that work can be done in-house, which, which is a good thing. Anything major beyond that would probably have to sub out, but I think we really need to open discussion, like, how much we really want to spend, or are we gonna kind of wait and see what's gonna happen with this building? And that's the kidder. The Arts Center, obviously, is, the Arts Center, we actually have some funding that's, in the bank that we can spend some money on. I probably spent maybe the last 2 or 3 years about $30,000. I took an old oil tank out, I updated the heating system, I patched the roof, painted the building. But right now, it needs some work, and I think it needs some basic repointing, and it needs some painting inside. But nothing really substantial, again, and that's another building that we weren't really sure how much we were gonna go. There is some issue about the parking lot in the back that we talked about, but I think it's really too soon to call. Do we really wanna do a parking lot in the back, or, with the fire station committee, not know if that building was ever gonna be taken for them, so I think we're just wait and see.
I think your parking lot idea is coming to fruition sooner every single day passes. So you need us to approve this, or you just giving us this?
Yeah,
So there's
I
50
just thought it'd be a good idea for Bill to come in and present to two of the town buildings. Obviously, the Kidder Library now is under the purview of the select board, but just, that there is some necessary stuff that needs to be done, and Bill's a subject matter expert, and he always literally gets, the best out of the money that he's
know he
afforded, and his preventive maintenance helps us away from problems that just triple exponentially the cost of it. So just thought it'd be a good idea to bring Bill in and talk about two of the buildings in town that obviously need repair, and how to proceed best with it.
Yeah, and, you know, in working with the tenants, I mean, the renting, I mean, they're very good. They're obviously trying to do the best they can, trying to maintain the facilities. But there are things that are above and beyond that we have to do, I think, you mean, so. But, you know, right now, both the buildings are in fairly good shape, other than some basic things. There's some handicap issues, but we're not, I think we really have to kind of wait and see before investing, you know, we're trying to bring the buildings up to handicap accessibility. But I just want, just let, you know, just some basic things I need to do, and I don't want to have to come back to you every 6 months and say, I need to do this. I think, that, you know, as we take money in, there's money there to be, you know, for building improvements. I think I'll spend the money as costly as I can. Anything major, then obviously we'd kind of really discuss.
Right. We had a discussion in the
Yeah.
Milton Landing Committee over the past couple of weeks about the deterioration of the lockup building, and how a couple of dollars over the years may have prevented some of the problems that exist with that building, and just to address these things in a timely manner, like Bill does throughout the town-owned buildings, so.
Yeah, and all these two buildings, you know, they have their own challenges. They're, you know, I think the Milton Arts Center is almost 90 years old, so it's not like an easy fix. You know, you start touching the masonry walls, it's almost 3 layers of brick. You know, it's a slate roof, it's copper, so there's a lot of the work that I have to do. If I can't do in the house, sub it out. It's all specialty work, but, you know, I'm not a, you know, if anybody knows me, I don't waste money. I, you know, really thorough and try to use, you know, I mean, only spend money where I have to.
So, Bill, it looks like we're talking about the Arts Center, we're talking about repairs of about $6,000, and that would come from a revolving fund?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't need to approve that?
No,
Okay.
just.
And then on Kidder, it looks like we're talking about 5,900, we're talking about $7,300. And where would that, is there a revolving fund that would come from as well, or?
There is, unfortunately, well, for this board, unfortunately, but the rent of Kidder goes to the library trustees. So that would probably come from money that Bill is managing.
One of the things, Coach, you bring up a very good point. One of the things that, if anyone remembers in our joint discussions with the trustees, is in any agreement, if we decide to keep the tenant, any agreement that we working to the rent, X proportion would go into a fund specifically for the maintenance. And I believe town council said that was permissible. You know, the library still gets the money, but we could take the building, a certain percentage to go towards the maintenance of the building.
And I believe the way the current lease reads, they're responsible for, the tenant at the Kidder Library is responsible for $5,000 worth of repair annually? Yeah.
Is that 5 he does, or you need to do 5 and he reimburses you 5,000 to do it? How does it go?
It's, well, you know, the 5,000, that's, you know, and they put that into gutter repair, window repair, painting,
And you let them do that
landscaping.
stuff?
Yeah.
You let them do that, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much keep, you know, before, they would keep the library, you know, what's going on, the library would call me, say, Bill, can you please check out the work? But, you know, it works good, but, you know, we have done repairs in these buildings in the last 5 years.
Well, I know.
But, you know, we're just not gonna start doing handicap accessibility at this point until we know what we can do with the facilities.
Is there a revolving fund that the library trustees have,
Yeah.
that they've been doing repairs from?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
perhaps
Yeah.
we could ask them, since they have a fund and they would have the benefit of those repairs, perhaps we could ask them if they'd be willing to continue to have, at least until we had our own fund built up a little bit, right? They've been building up their revolving fund
Yes.
with the rent over the years. Perhaps maybe we could reach out to them to do
At
that.
one point,
Do
they
we-
told us how much is in that fund at one point. In the discussions, they came up. It's more than, I think it's more than 50.
Ms. Collins?
Do we need to actually ask town council about that, since the deed is rather complicated, along with well, I don't know whether it's called an endowment or what kind of an arrangement it is.
So I don't know the answer. So, I mean, my understanding is now, the town council has said that we are the decision-making
Yes.
body, but it's for the benefit of the library, which is
Right.
controlled by the trustees.
Right.
So we're the decision-making body, they have the benefit. It seems to me, and you raise a good point, we could ask town council if the trustees, if they have a revolving fund that has been built up through the rent over the years, could they now, since they're getting the benefit of the building going forward, could they now cover some of those repairs?
Right, well, because they're, the building isn't being used for the library. So the question is, can that money even be used for upkeep? Or does it have to come out of Mr. Ritchie's budget?
Well, ultimately, it will be for the benefit of the library, though, if it's sold.
Yeah, if it's sold.
If it's sold,
it
yeah.
will be. So if it deteriorates, then they get less money, and, it's an
Yes.
asset that deteriorates. So they will get the benefit of we're talking about this real time, so
Mhm.
perhaps we need to reach
Right.
out to the
Just
library
reach out to
trustees
them.
and see. But regardless, these repairs need to be made, it sounds like, and then we'll figure out the funding mechanism.
So you're about 8,000 in the kidder. Looks like it's about 8,000 you
Yeah.
want to do in repairs? Plus painting and,
Yeah, and I know that, they may do the painting,
Yeah.
we work kind of closely, and every year I kind of go back and say, okay, it might need a window here, it might need, like the oil tank. I never knew it was an oil tank until I really, about 3 years ago, this oil tank was in the ground. I never knew it. So I actually took the oil tank out, it was actually good, before the tank was leaking, and we changed it from oil to gas. We repaired the gutters, repaired the roof, we actually painted the exterior. So we've done a lot of work over the last 3 or 4 years. And obviously, they do a lot of work inside the building. I think they recently just did some central air conditioning there, they do a lot of painting, so they do a good job, I have to say. It's good, and I work very closely with Joan. I say, here's what I'm doing, and can you help me do this? I'll do that. So it kind of works good. And I think Kid is the same too. I think the issue with Kid right now is what's gonna really happen with the, is the town gonna keep or sell it? So I think that's the hard issue is, once we know who's staying there for a period of time, I think it'll be a easy, working relationship. But right now, I don't wanna put a lot of money in if we're gonna sell the building. It's just, so.
All right, so, thank you, Bill. I think that's a good update, and then we'll, we can go forward on these, and we'll
Okay.
just figure out the funding on the kidder side. Does that
But
make
I-
sense?
Yeah, but I think the two things I mentioned, the two repairs, I think we need to move forward on them. There is funding.
Yep.
If there wasn't enough funding, I have some more funding in my budget, I can pay for them, at least, for the, I think that's for the next 4 or 5 months. I think we can get these done, and we can kind of revisit. That's pretty much it.
Great.
Thank you very
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks for the update,
Very
Bill.
helpful.
Thanks for all your work.
Very helpful.
Yeah, it's all right,
Sorry we kept you so late.
No, it's all right.
One of the most responsive departments in
Yes.
town government. On the fly, never say no. Thank you for everything.
I've heard him say no. He'll say no sometimes.
I kicked the can, but I made him say no. Have a good night,
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks, Bill.
it. Sorry for the late hour. Item 11, this is the discussion approval of the Conservation Commission land donation. Is this something, this is something that we're getting new information on, it seems, by the hour. Is this something we can defer until next week? Do they need a decision tonight?
They don't need a decision tonight, and we did get an email just before this meeting started that the DCR is going to go out there and take a look, their subject matter expert, within the next couple of days.
Okay.
This is something that they're very interested in.
Oh, great.
Was it about their property?
Indirectly, yeah. Yeah, there's
All right.
some,
So give it to them versus give it to make it conservation property within the town?
that's the thought, if that's amenable to them. It's very wet land.
Yep. So we can defer this.
Okay.
Is that acceptable? All right. Item 13, confirm future meeting dates. We have the 11th, which is next week, more fun than anyone should be allowed to have, and the 25th, and then on the 22nd. That's the MassDOT Public Information Meeting on the Route 138 project. Is everyone okay? Melinda had to step out. Is everyone okay with those dates? All right, great.
One other one that the board might want to consider.
Ms. Conlon.
The Master Plan Implementation Committee is going to be having a public meeting about the Milton Village mixed-use overlay zoning, and that's going to be Monday, September 23rd, at 7 o'clock, right here at the Council on Aging. So it's a public meeting, but members of our board may wish to attend.
Okay.
Okay, we may want to post that.
You send that out to us? So, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Given the late hour, I would be happy, I'm sorry, Jen, to defer on meeting minutes, but if we want to charge forward, we can do that. Is that charge forward, or?
I'll charge for, I'll.
Charge forward? Okay.
Can we,
are we
I have
ready
to
to?
abstain from two of them, so can we
Okay.
do them separately?
Which two?
Yeah, and I think we have
February 25th
three
and
to do.
26th.
I think we have three to
Four.
do. Well, one
Yeah,
of
we have
them,
four.
one of them, no, one of them I think is executive session.
Oh, okay.
If I'm, is one of them executive session? No,
Did you
okay.
say 25 and 26, Katie?
Yes, so I'll have to
So I'm
abstain
gonna
on
do
those.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Oh, I see,
Sorry.
okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
You done? Sorry, Jeff. So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes on February 6th, February 13th, and March
Second.
27th.
Oh, March.
February
I didn't see
6th.
those. March 27th?
Was the last one. So it says in March 27th as amended.
Oh,
Oh, that's not attached, though.
oh, March 27th.
We can wait on that one.
Wait on March 27th?
All right, so
Okay.
I go back, so I'll go 6, 13.
I'll
and-
second.
Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the meeting minutes of February 6th and February 13th, 2019. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
And then I'll make a second motion to approve February 25th and February 26th, 2019.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of February 25th and February 26th, 2019. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
One
see?
abstention.
With one abstention, sorry. Four yes, one abstention, Ms. Conlon. So I was trying to make things too easy on us. Town Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have a couple of dates and things ongoing in town that I'd like to announce, but I would first and foremost like to thank Wendy Daly, who works here at the Council on Aging. As many of you know, Nancy Stewart took a fall and she's out injured, so we wish Nancy Stewart good health and hopefully she gets well soon. In addition, Mary Ann Sullivan, the director, has been a vacation that she was long overdue and well-deserved and needed to take it last week, and Wendy dutifully ran this building unbelievably. We had our first indoor summer concert series, which had been twice rained out. Wendy was here the entire night and helped run the show for the Neville Sisters and Clerk Galvin, who was sponsoring the event. So she did everything in this building last week, and I think she needs accommodation for that. She did great work, and she's a great employee of the town. Most people don't know her. People who spend time in this building certainly do. She's certainly giving and does more than she's asked. So thank you, Wendy, for your time last week here and everything you do in this building. I just want to remind everyone the summer concert series, Senator Timmelty's Once Rained Out was scheduled for tonight. It was rained out again. It will take place tomorrow night here. Curra's Fancy will take the stage at the gazebo at 6 p.m. The plastic ban bag ban goes into effect on September 14th, just reminding everyone. I know there's been a public outreach by Environmental Coordinator Hillary Waite, and Birchheimer has been in touch with a couple of the local establishments. The Traffic Mitigation Committee will meet here on September 19th at Third and Final Public Information Center. That's at 7 p.m. on Thursday, September 19th. And it's a bit early, but never too early. Celebrate Milton will take place on Sunday, October 6th at the Pierce Middle School from 12 to 4.
Thank you, Mr. Dennehy.
Thank you.
Item 16, Chair's Report, no report this evening. Item 17, Members' Report, Ms. Collins.
I actually, not really in time for this to be posted, but I was talking with Bill Golden over the weekend about the Storm Surge Working Group and a conference that they're going to be holding. Previously, you know, we were asked for $10,000 to join the group, and we were not the only municipality that said, well, wait a minute, is there another way to do this? Because there wasn't necessarily an outline, although there have been a lot of very well-attended and well-put-together events, one of which I was able to attend, which was a big working group meeting. So they've gone back and realized that perhaps a better alternative is to have a conference, and that would be on October 24th, and it would be $2,500 for a table of 8, so that would allow business people, staff, elected officials to go, and so I have an agenda that I can actually pass out to everyone. And just so people know what kinds of things would be discussed would be the Metropolitan Boston's regional vulnerability to coastal storm surge devastation. That would be one topic. Layered defense options for protecting Boston Harbor coastal communities, of which we are one, from sea level rise and storm surge. Existing and planned national and international regional storm surge seagate systems. So we'd find out, you know, how these work, and I'm sure New Bedford would again be highlighted. The cost-benefit economics of regional layered defense systems. They're working with a PhD candidate and his advisors, somebody who is an economist but specializing in this coastal infrastructure, which is. I didn't think he, maybe
One
he's.
was from Marshfield.
Okay. But I really actually enjoyed his presentation. How to eliminate mandatory FEMA flood insurance premiums. Insurance, they're finding, is really a much bigger issue than was previously thought. Coastal flooding and municipal bond ratings. Public finance options for regional layered defense systems, and social justice and private sector costs when coastal resiliency risks are shifted from public sector to private sector. So, so those are the topics, and some of the communities that have participated are Boston, Braintree, Chelsea, Everett, Hingham, Hull, Malden, Milton, Revere, Quincy, Weymouth, and Winthrop. So that's those are all the communities that have attended so far, but I mean, the list of officials, Richard can tell you, who came to the last meeting, really, I think, highlighted how many people think this is really important. All those people in that room are trying to push this forward.
I agree. So you think we should get a table?
I mean, we were originally asked for $10,000 to get a seat at the table to guide this through. I think it's definitely worthy of discussion. Maybe we need to discuss it at a regular meeting rather than discuss it here because it wasn't posted, but.
Can we do it for the 11th? Is that?
Yeah,
that's
I
not
mean,
too
because
late?
I'd be really interested to hear, I already gave my thoughts on that last meeting, but to hear your thoughts, I think would be.
No, I'm like, I've said this since Michael and I went to the first one, which was the harbor tour, which he brought in all the business people and everyone that said anything to do with that. He brought that scientist over from Australia. I mean, it's, people may not realize it here, but like our entire, that whole Neponset, Thistle, Cortland, that whole Lower Granite Ave area, all Lower Mill Village, all the area that the MPIC's been working on, all will be affected by this. So I think it only behooves us to be part of this project, because this is not something where you want to be an island by yourself. And I never knew Bill Golden, but now I've looked at his background, his history, and he was one of the whole people behind Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, and look what that became. And so I think it's, for $10,000 or whatever we do have to put in, it's minimal for what we'll get out of it right now. We have a seat at the table, and he is definitely very welcoming. I mean, he's been very good about it. So.
Right.
I missed the last meeting where this was discussed, and so So I was going to actually bring it up under future meeting, future agenda items, because I think it's a really critical issue that we move forward on. And I would recommend we go to the reserve fund for the $10,000 of funding, since it is.
And now it's not 10,000, it's 2,500.
Well, so that's a question I have. So, because I thought that Quincy or one of the other communities had already paid in a significant amount.
Quincy had dollars, but that was prior to, from Bill explaining it to me, they just did that to try to get this up and running and off the ground, because it does take, I mean, this is a nonprofit, and it does take some money to keep the entity going in order to keep this moving along. But they went back and they calculated, well, okay, what's the minimum we can do this with? So we didn't talk about possibly putting money in the future, but this is what they're saying, that they want to deliver this value up front, and also an ability for everybody to be sitting around tables and talking to each other, because it's not clear that that's been able to happen yet. So that's why they came up with this. Would they say no to $10,000? No, but that's not what we're being asked for at the moment.
I agree with Katie. Maybe we should just, let's do 20, if he wants 20, let's put it on as a future agenda item and vote it.
Next week?
Put it on for next week?
Yeah, and maybe even as a reserve fund transfer request, because I think we can make the case that it's both extraordinary and unforeseen. You only need one, but if we meet the two prongs of the reserve fund test, and it is such an important issue. Can we also try to get clarity in the meantime on how many other communities, even if we have to reach out to some of the other communities, as to who else is joining this effort? Because it seems like it's only going to work if everybody buys into it.
Oh, I'd say all these, that Melinda
Right,
has talked to all in.
from what Bill Golden said, the communities that have been showing up to these events that I read are on board, but they didn't necessarily want to be putting in $20,000 or $25,000, but want to be involved. And I think just need to be talking to each other before making any more commitments.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Any other members' reports? Anything else? Citizen speak response. I don't think we have anything. Item 19, future agenda items. Any future agenda items that any members have that we need to include?
Just that I asked, go ahead, I just asked Michael we're going to update, I'll just give a quick update on where the landing committee's been on their work so far.
Okay.
As far as the RFP.
Next week? We'll put it on for next
Yeah,
week?
just quick, 5 minutes, not even.
Okay. Milton Landing Committee, okay.
Could I make a request regarding the agendas? Can we go back to incorporating or attaching timeframes next to each item so that we can kind of keep us?
I think we did.
You did do
and
that.
And
It was
I think
there.
it was on
was on
the
there.
published, it was on the published agenda.
Okay.
And unfortunately tonight it failed miserably, but.
I understand that it's
But it's a good point, Tony. What I need to do is just point it out
Gavel.
during the meeting, during the meeting, so.
It's something that we work towards and strive for. We can't always hold ourselves to it.
No, you're right.
I just thought it was very helpful to us as members.
You're right,
you know.
you're absolutely right. It was on the public agenda, it wasn't on our
fair enough.
agenda. So, Ms. Collins.
Actually, somebody had a good suggestion this evening, which was to have an agenda on that table or somewhere that.
We do,
that-
it's
that-
right at the door when you come in.
They're in the chairs. Oh, the person just couldn't, I guess, find it. Where are they? So that
Usually the
was
first chair as you walk in.
the first chair. Okay, that's good. Now that I know that, I can go get one for people if they have a question.
And if we're in the Cronin, they're in the first, right on the right, as soon as you walk.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, Tony,
I've only
so-
been here over a year.
All right, Tony, we'll try to, the chair will try to do better enforcing the timeframes.
I didn't mean to
No,
put
no,
it on
no,
you,
I know you
Theo.
didn't, I know you didn't, I know, but it's my responsibility.
I have a couple, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Mr. Denny.
East Milton Deck Air Rights Agreement, we received a final copy today to be approved by this board, back from MassDOT today, late this afternoon from John Flynn, Milton Zone. Also received a request from Chief Grant, there's a decommissioned fire engine that we may want to dispose of. I'm sure Chief Wells knows the process well. There's been a couple of vehicles donated to
Internationally.
internationally, yeah. I believe the last one went down to Dominica. There's a gentleman, a resident of the town, who helps facilitate that, so I'd like to get that on the agenda. And- Excuse me, BYOB, I know we were slated to get this done on the 11th. Town Council Dave DeLuca informed me that Holbrook is having a special town meeting that night, and he would like to defer till the 25th, if at all possible.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's probably fine. I mean, you know, as far as I know, so.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on future, Mr. Farrington?
One question for Mike. Any updates on Lincoln Street?
I was by there today. They're progressing
Sure.
nicely. Come to my attention, they're gonna redo the parking lot there as well. I saw that under excavation today. So it's a work in progress. Again, I appreciate everyone's patience. It wasn't our intention to start that project right before school went back, but we were, this is MassDOT money, this is state money that we received during our Complete Streets award, $396,000. Similarly, there was some drilling taking place on Reedsdale Road today, across from the entrance to BID Milton. Those are test bores for the Hawk traffic signal that's going to be going in there soon. So that's another one of the Complete Street projects that were identified in Town Engineer John Thompson and Director Berkeley's submissal. So it's ongoing. They had given me 2.5 weeks 2 weeks ago, and I don't see it done this week. I was there this morning. It is a safe passageway for students in the morning. It's closed to vehicular traffic, and the sidewalks are, they're getting there.
Okay.
I know that was a
No.
long-winded answer, but.
Quickly, while I have it,
Yeah.
streetlights on Joe Kathleen.
Yes, conversation back and forth from Joe Prondak this afternoon to the developer. It's more to come tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
All right, community happenings. This Sunday, September 8th, the Suffolk Resolves has an open house between 1 and 3 p.m. Saturday, September 14th, the Community Housing Forum from 10 a.m. to noon, and that's something that Melinda Collins is going to play a prominent role in and has been publicizing well. Tuesday, September 17th, 100 Women Who Care at 10 Bassett Street from 6:30 to 8. Friday, September 20th, the Forbes House Museum Barn Fest, beer, food, music from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. was a great event last year, and no doubt will be a great event this year. Same with Milton Porch Fest, which is this year Saturday, September 21st. And then Thursday, September 26th, the Rebuild Fitness grand opening and ribbon cutting from 5 to 8 p.m. Anything else on community happenings?
I think so.
No? All right. We'll go to item 21B on the agenda, which is executive session, and I'll move to enter into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the town administrator, believing that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and we will not be returning to open session after that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. This will be a roll call vote. Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Zulish, yes. Mr. Farrington?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
So we are adjourned to executive session. Thank you all. And we are lucky enough to be able to see you next week, September 11th at 7 p.m. Have a nice week.